Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to this month's The Vacuuminator stream. I apologize for this getting started a little bit late. I've been trying to get a hold of Buster for about an hour now, and they're not responding to any of my messages. So we're just going to go ahead and get going without them, though I've left the invite open, so at any time Buster might just hop in and start discussing with me. But for now, at least, we're flying solo, and we're gonna try and have a good time, because it's been a decent month on the channel, I think. Not been any, like, banger videos going out, but some pretty solid ones, some ones that have done fairly well, unexpectedly, I would say so, in a couple of cases. And you know, it's spooky, it's scary, it's the Halloween Fright Night mega month that everybody on YouTube has to obligatorily celebrate, even if it's not one of their favorite holidays. So I'm going to celebrate the week of Halloween today by doing the absolute scariest thing I can think of, and that's talking about Power Rangers on the internet. Because if you don't know, I've grown quite sour on the Power Rangers fandom in the last year, and I actually opted not to discuss Cosmic Fury when it came out because of the way a lot of people were reacting to news about that show and about the franchise in general at that time. But when we did the Transformers tier list last month, literally the main response I got from that was just people saying, do a Power Rangers tier list. You gotta do Power Rangers now. So I am nothing if not a servant of the viewers. So here we are. I thought we could make it a little extra fun by having a guest, but again, Buster's just not responding to messages this morning. I'm guessing they overslept or something. I know we were both up quite late last night because of very unfortunate events that are happening in the real world right now, and they weren't feeling too good because of all of that. I'm not either, but I'm trying to come out and entertain you people and deliver the entertainment I promised, and no shame to Buster for not feeling well enough to show up to the stream, but hopefully they hop in later. And let's go ahead and say hi to everybody who's in the chat right now. What's up, Just Some Random Guy, Boulderman 2010, and Octuple Canvas 89. I hope you are all having a fine and friendly Saturday afternoon or evening or morning or whatever time it is, whenever it is, wherever you are in the world. Please do stay active in the chat. I'd love to have discussion with the viewers about some of my choices as we go on throughout the stream. And if you're watching this back on the replay, please don't forget to do all those YouTube algorithm things, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all those good things. Just keep this channel active in the algorithm. It's the only way I survive doing what I do. And if you want to support me, we got Patreon. We have a direct donation link that is at the top of the video description, and we'll actually put an alert if you give it while I'm live, much like the subscription alerts I replayed from the last month during the start screen. So yeah, that's all well and good, and hopefully y'all remember to do all those things. But right now, let's go ahead and get into this month's stream topic. Hi, Sean Walsh. We are going to be ranking every season of the Power Rangers television series and one web show, because it's also on this tier list that I found. This is the most comprehensive tier list that I could find. This doesn't have any of the movies on it, but only one of the movies is canon to the show, and I can really just talk about it while I talk about that season. And we're gonna go ahead and go in continuity order. I didn't do any kind of like fancy special ranking names for this like I did for the Transformers one. Just because I didn't have like a really creative idea for it, but hopefully this turns out pretty well, just as I reorganize some of my windows here real quick. Boingo Rider, I'm doing the dishes, but rest assured I'll give you my opinion. Excellent, that's what we like to hear. So, obviously, you gotta start off with the original, the classic, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Season 1 from way back in 1993. So, I think I've talked about it quite a few times on this channel, but I don't particularly care for a lot of the early seasons or a lot of the early installments in Power Rangers, mainly because I didn't grow up with them. I was born in 1997 and I consider myself a 2000s kid. So it's a lot of the Disney era that was my original exposure to Power Rangers. But as a young adult, I want to say it was when I was like 18 or 19. It was around the time of the 20th anniversary, back when every season was on Netflix. I did watch through everything in order, and I've gone back and revisited some seasons and some key episodes here and there since. So I have a pretty good sense of everything and my feelings on it. And my feelings on Season 1 are that it's massively overrated. I think a lot of people who really like Season 1 like it because of nostalgia goggles. It is not that well written or clever, or even just well acted or directed of a television show. It is very subpar, even for its time, I would say. There's a couple of really strong episodes, like Day of the Dumpster, I think is a fantastic pilot. I still go back and rewatch that episode sometimes. Island of Illusion is very fun. Doomsday is pretty good if you think about it as, this was originally supposed to be the Season 1 finale. It definitely has a very good epic sense of finality to it. However, the main thing people always talk about with this is Green with Evil. And I'm here to tell you, I think Green with Evil kinda sucks. There's some good moments, there's some really good ideas in Green with Evil, but that episode is bloated as hell. It is a 5-parter that really could have been edited down to a 3 or even a 2-parter in my opinion, and it would have been just as good, if not way better, because it's missing a lot of the fluff and the meaningless, just here's a fight for the sake of a fight to keep the plot going a little longer. That's in that episode. And it's just not my kind of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and I am going to put this one in D tier. It's not quite as bad as Power Rangers can get. It's very not as good as I think a lot of people tend to remember it as. Let's see what's going on with the chat right now. Season 1 is good, mainly for Green with Evil, but at the same time, loads of random stuff though. Remember Rita's flying bike. Yeah, Rita's flying bike is just a weird thing left over from the Sentai. That's the thing with a lot of early seasons, is there's a lot of just like weird little side stuff from the Sentai that just made it in because they needed to fill out episodes and they didn't quite know how to translate it. Everyone overrates MMPR. Yeah, that's true. I think it's because a lot of Power Rangers fans tend to be about 5 to 10 years older than me and actually grew up with MMPR. And like I said, it's purely nostalgia goggles. I'll give you, there's good stuff in that season. I think there's a lot of good base ideas for characters, but they never quite develop into anything that is quite compelling for me as an older viewer. But then you get to Season 2, and I would say Season 2 is a marked improvement from Season 1. I really like a lot of the introductory episodes. Lord Zed is a fantastic villain early on, and I would even argue later on he's good for different reasons, but he's really nice and menacing in those early Season 1 episodes where he's just directly targeting Tommy as like, you're Rita's biggest mistake, I'm gonna get rid of you first. And that string of episodes is very good. Missing Green is a fantastic episode that really helps hammer home the friendship that had been forged between Tommy and Jason in Season 1 and Season 2, though it maybe could have been done a slight bit better, just in building up to that, I would say. But it's a good final note on it. And then you get to the awkward string of episodes in the middle where 3 of the main actors had walked off the set for very good reason, I would say, knowing what we know now. But a lot of those episodes are like, this is a good idea, but because of all the editing jiggery-pokery they're having to pull to make it work, is just ruining it. It's making it very hard to sit through. And even after the power transfer, it takes a little bit for them to get the new team dynamic down just quite right. The thing is, there's later episodes in this season I enjoy, but it's mainly for the villain dynamic. I'm gonna give a bit of a hot take here. I actually really like Rita and Lord Zed as a married couple. I feel like the whole first family of evil dynamic is really entertaining, especially as the show goes on from this point. However, the wedding is a slog to get through. That episode is padded as hell, and it's not very interesting. I would say the real highlights of this season are that first few episodes and White Light. White Light, unlike Green with Evil, actually kind of holds up upon a modern viewing, I would say. It's still a very fun episode. Even though it's very obvious, the mystery is still pretty interesting. And the reveal is very, very satisfying. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in C. It is a step up from season 1, but it's not quite, the show's not quite there yet, you know? I'm going to go ahead and check on the chat. Yeah, I agree, Mighty Morphin is good, but not the best for sure. Lord Zed actually looks like a good villain, a lot more menacing, but then sort of becomes Rita by blaming everyone else for his failures. That's fair. At first, that is a little lame, but I would say it gets very comedic and fun as it goes on. Also might want to lower the music audio. Seems some of it peaks really high. Okay, I had it at about half, but I'll lower it a little bit more. Let's put it right there. There. Hopefully that's good. Let me know, guys. Is that low enough? Do you want that a little higher, a little lower? Let me know. White Light was a great mystery for kids. As an adult, you sort of figure out it's Tommy. Oh yeah, it's so obvious it's Tommy by the time Billy's in that vent looking at Zordon and Alpha working on the suit. But it's still fun watching the characters in the show unravel it. You know, it's kind of the thing of this is a weird comparison, but it reminds me almost a little bit of the mystery of who is the White Wizard in Kamen Rider Wizard, where it's like, this isn't a mystery for you viewers. This is a mystery for the characters in the show, and you're supposed to be anticipating how they'll react to the big reveal. At least that's my opinion on that. I know there's people who disagree, but whatever, fuck them. This is my stream. We're talking about my opinions here. So let's get on to Season 3. Season 3, for me, is very, very good. I like a lot of what goes on in this. There's a little bit of kind of hanky-pank, not greatness scattered throughout, but overall, I love the new villains this season and what they add to the first family of evil dynamic. Rito Revolto is probably my favorite MMPR villain. I'm still really sour he hasn't gotten a Lightning Collection figure. I love Master Vile as kind of the stereotypical sitcom father-in-law. The Tangas are really fun grunts, and this is where they really nail down the sitcom, the old, like, classic sitcom husband and wife dynamic between Rita and Zed, and it's just hilarious. Like, they are the reason you're watching the show at this point, to see their antics. And the Rangers aren't bad this season. They're all just kind of very settled into their roles and doing their thing. I would say the most interesting thing that really happens with the Rangers this season is the introduction of Ninjor, that opening 5-part Ninja Quest, or is it 5 or 3 parts? I can't remember. Ninja Quest is a very solid season opener. We're not going to talk about the other opening episodes. We're just not. The different shade of pink arc, the transition from Kimberly to Kat, I would say is probably the best Ranger handoff in the show's history. I really like those episodes, and I still don't get why so many people prefer Kimberly over Kat, because Kat is such a stronger character, as illustrated in those episodes and a few episodes later on in the series. You could argue that, yeah, she's just a female version of Tommy, but I would also argue that's what makes her great. She's far more interesting than stereotypical Valley Girl turns nice superhero person. And the only real problem with this season for me is that it does kind of peter out towards the end. I would say the last 4 or 5 episodes until the finale are kind of just rigmarole, going through the same thing they always do. But there's also a point to that, because the last episode of the show, Rangers in Reverse, has a lot of moments of, wait, we've done this before. Wait, this is how things always go. Wait, there's really no point to fighting on this level, because we all know how it's going to turn out. What's going on here? And it's very entertaining. Rangers in Reverse, I feel, is a spectacular finale for a show like Power Rangers. And it's for that reason that I'm actually going to put this one in A. I would say Season 3 is a very good season. There's some rocky bits here and there, I'll give you, but it's the most enjoyable season of MMPR for me, as somebody who didn't grow up with MMPR. I'm going to take a quick sip of my drink, and then we'll catch up on the chat. People do say the whole Lord Zed being in love with Rita was something out of nowhere, but it wasn't. We were given hints previously of that being the case. Well, the whole thing with that is that she gives him a love potion. Like, it's an evil plot by her that kind of backfires into neither of them being happy in the marriage, and that's kind of cosmically hilarious. So, like, I don't get why people would see it as a problem when it's literally in the script that this is them taking it out of nowhere. It's still nice to see the characters actually react to it being Tommy. Kimberly fainting is a bit much, though. Yeah, that's hilarious. Along with the just spliced in clip of Austin St. John going, "This is great," after Zordon just casually drops that Tommy's the leader now. We also got KKK Tommy. That's true, the ninjetti suits aren't great, but, like, there's still a lot of fun action while they're wearing those suits, so I'm willing to forgive it. Like, this is some of the most creative they get with the stunt work in the entire franchise, Season 3, I would say. Saban wanting to Kamen Rider to America with Masked Rider, but it didn't work, ended up being a failure. MMPR Season 3 for the Ninja Fighter, a lot more interesting than the film, in my opinion. Funny, I did actually see the film a number of times as a kid, so, like, I have a better memory of the film, but I would say it was handled better in the show, because the film is so different from the show and so awkward because of that, because there's no origin story. The film just kind of drops you into its own little weird alternate world it's got going on. I remember loving Masked Rider as a kid, but I can't remember a single episode. I remember when Shadow Moon tried to destroy the prom. Please make more videos about other seasons like you did Megaforce. That was some S-tier PR content. Welcome to the Chat Clownery Super Bowl. I don't currently have any plans with anything like that, just because I was such a different person at the time I made that, and it was a huge undertaking. But never say never. Master Vile was always better than Rita or Zed Lamau. I mean, he was definitely more successful than either of them. He's the only villain to actually ever like completely defeat a Ranger team. Granted, they're able to claw back from the clutches of defeat in the following show, but still, yeah, he's technically a more successful villain than them. I wouldn't say he's got a better suit design or personality. It's more like he has a very complementary suit design and personality, though. But that's me all caught up on the chat. Let's go ahead and talk about Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, the mini-series that happened between Season 3 and Zeo. Alien Rangers is interesting because it feels like it should be a lot more plot-driven, and at times it is, but at other times it feels very meandery. Like, there's a whole episode about them going to a water park because they had that footage. And, like, the Equations are an interesting concept. I wish they got more time to be actual characters, because, of course, the show is juggling the villains reveling in their victory and trying to keep hold of their victory, establishing and then using the Equations as the main Rangers of the show, and then the other, the main Ranger team we'd been following up to that point, like, trying to get back to being adults, because, of course, in Rangers of Reverse, they were transformed into kids and they couldn't access their powers. And I do like all that subplot stuff. Like, I really like the sort of vision quest that all the kids go on, especially the episode with Kat is such a nice coda on, like, this is what this person actually is, as opposed to what Rita and Zed wanted her to be. There's some fun fights here and there, but overall, Alien Rangers isn't a great show. It's very much kind of just, we're spinning our wheels to get to Zeo, and honestly, there's not a lot of episodes in it I would say are like must watch. So I'm gonna put it in C. It's good, but it's not great. Let's see, Boulderman in the chat. The Alien Rangers were probably a good trial run to see if kids would accept new Power Rangers. That's definitely what they were now that I think about it. I never understood the Rangers called aliens when in the Sentai they were ninja. It's just because they wanted... There weren't any other Rangers established on Earth at the time, and they needed a Ranger team to come in and help out our guys. So the most logical thing, at least in the show's universe at that time, was to say that they were aliens. And, I mean, they get a little bit out of that concept, so it's not terrible. Though, like, as soon as you hear that they're from a show literally called Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger, I think it is, because I haven't actually seen that show yet, it makes total sense. Like, you can't not see that they're supposed to be ninjas. But they look different enough from the established... The Power Ranger suits you had for that 3 seasons so far. They look so different that I think kids would just accept, like, oh yeah, they're weird and different, so they're alien. Except the Wild West Rangers. Well, that was back in time, and that was technically Kimberly fucking with the timeline by creating a new Ranger team out of the existing powers, so... Alright, let's talk about Zeo. I actually made a whole video about Zeo a number of years ago. I'm pretty sure it's still up on the channel if you dig deep down. It's not my best work, but I did say a lot of the stuff I'm going to say here, which is that I really like Zeo. I feel like Zeo is MMPR finally fully realizing its potential, because there is just such a good, like, late 90s vibe to this season of the great sitcoms of that time, but also some fun action and adventure, some really cool costumes and technology, and very good lessons for kids here and there. Love that opening 2-parter. I haven't been talking about music much, but, like, the music for the first few seasons of Power Rangers is good. It's very different and exciting for its time, but I feel like Zeo is where they really get the music down. I love the music in Zeo. There's some standout episodes, like Oh, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but the episode where Tanya joins the baseball team is fantastic. There's some very fun dated episodes, like the one where there's a monster that tries to hack a school computer lab. And it's just hilarious how dated it comes off because of the like hackersy way they try to stop it. And Where in the World is Zeo Ranger 5 and King for a Day are fantastic episodes. I would argue those should have been the finale. Good as Gold is still a really fun finale, but I like those other 3 episodes much more. And of course, that's without talking about the big things that come into play in this season, which is the first new group of villains we ever get, the Royal House of Gadgetry. Of course, Rita and Zed and them are still there in the background plotting to come back to prominence, but I still really like the Royal House of Gadgetry. They are a nice kind of iteration on the first family of evil idea that the show had spent so long developing. They're threatening, but they're also comedic, and they also have interesting villain interplay. That is kind of unfortunate. Never kind of comes back with them. We see them a few more times throughout the franchise, but they never quite get time to shine again after this season, even though they get some really good showings here. And then, of course, there's the whole Gold Ranger introductory arc of who could the Gold Ranger be? It's a mystery. It's a very long and drawn out and goofy mystery. But it's still fun. I would argue it's not as good as the White Ranger, but it's still a fun one. However, there is a huge glaring drawback to this season, I would say, which is the whole making Tommy a Native American thing. It's an interesting way to bring Jason David Frank's brother into the show, but it's so inaccurate and so cheesy and done up for a kid's show, and like considering how poorly mainstream media always handles Native American representation, it's still not even that great. It's one of the major missteps of the franchise, I would say, especially because it never comes up again after those episodes. It's just, Tommy's gonna go on a vision quest, and he's gonna find out he has a long lost brother who we're never gonna do anything with. Like, I know he was supposed to be a red herring for who the Gold Ranger is, but that entire arc is just weird and insensitive and superfluous. And it's because of that I can't in good conscience put this in A. I'm going to have to put this in B. I want to love this season. But ever since, and this is the unfortunate thing about Buster unfortunately being unable to make it to the stream, it would appear that Buster brought it to my attention that Native American stuff was so influential, because it just kind of washed over me when I first watched through it, because I wasn't as socially conscious back then. And now looking back, it's that ain't it, Chief. That ain't it. All right, let's catch up on the chat. I rewatched MMPR Season 1 through Zeo back in 2020. I feel like not much happened in Zeo apart from a new villain beat him. It was, but it was all very good, entertaining monster of the week. Very few episodes of Zeo feel tedious. There's still a good flow and a good, just a good vibe to the action. It really feels like the writers hit their stride at that point, is what I'm getting at for why I love the show so much. Zeo did end with a cliffhanger, but it was still good, though. What was the cliffhanger? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure you're wrong about that octuple canvas, because there's no real cliffhanger other than Jason giving up the Gold Ranger powers back to Trey and Trey leaving. The final shot of that show is just Jason and Tommy hanging out being bros, and then in the Turbo movie, it acts like nothing really has happened. The closest thing I guess you could say to cliffhanger is that a few scenes before that, we find out that Lieutenant Stone, Bulk, and Skull have been given a secret mission to France, but that never goes anywhere. And it's not even really a cliffhanger because it's not the end of the episode, not the proper end of the show. So I can't count that way. Which, by the way, I haven't talked much about Bulk and Skull at all throughout this whole ranking, but I would say season 1, they're good generic bullies. Season 2, I like the shtick of them trying to discover the Rangers' identities, but it doesn't really go anywhere after a while. And it actually leads to some kind of dickish moments for the Rangers themselves. Season 3, I actually, for as problematic as it is nowadays, I actually really enjoy them becoming junior police officers. They get some really good comedy out of that, especially in the initial couple episodes. And in Zeo, them becoming private eyes is really fun. And I like the addition of Lieutenant Stone to their whole dynamic. I feel like Lieutenant Stone is a very underrated character in Power Rangers in general. At least until you get to the next season we're going to be talking about as soon as I finish catching up with the chat. The Gold Ranger mystery was so much better than the White Ranger. They definitely did drag it out longer than the White Ranger, and they did more with it, but I would argue the White Ranger mystery being much simpler and shorter kind of makes it the better of the two. I always say if you can do it shorter and cut out any fluff, it's going to be more entertaining because you want to just get to the point. I thought JDF was actually Native American when I was a kid. Yeah, Aki, I'm sure a lot of people did. I'm sure a lot of people just assumed he was after watching those episodes. But he is not, and that makes that all the more awkward that they did that, but whatever. Let's go ahead and talk about Turbo, everybody. The perennial Power Rangers punching bag of this season sucks, and I'm gonna go a little bit against the grain here. Turbo doesn't suck. It's just very poor. It is very subpar. There's like maybe 2 or 3 good episodes in the whole season, and some of the worst episodes of the franchise are in this season. Spirit of the Woods. Oh my god, that episode is terrible. A lot of people like to say Trouble by the Slice is a terrible episode. But I am in the camp that kind of sees it as a fun self-parody. But then there's other episodes, like, I can't even remember the name of it, but there's one episode where they try to homage Grease by having one of the Rangers direct a play that's clearly just discount store Grease, and that leads to a bunch of Grease-esque shenanigans happening in the real world, and there's a full-on greaser race at one point in the episode because we're doing a season about cars. And there's just a ton of awkwardness born out of the fact that this season was deliberately Sentai doing a self-parody show, and we're trying to get a little more serious. The Rangers are graduating high school, they're going out into the real world, or they're going off to college, but it's all just kind of held back by the goofy nature of the source material. And Divatox is a terrible villain. I'm sorry, I know there's some people who kind of ironically like her. I can't. She just sucks. She has some good moments later in the show, but she is not entertaining up until those last few episodes. And it really feels like there's nothing they want to do with her that makes sense. Of course, the big glaring thing with this season to talk about is Justin. A lot of people don't like Justin purely just because he's a kid who grows to adult size when he becomes a Ranger. I'd argue he's the most well-developed character this whole season. I much prefer anything going on with him than to Tommy learning how to race cars with his rich uncle. And, oh god, there was something else I wanted to go on to. Oh, of course, there's the huge cast change that happens halfway through this season. And I like a lot of those characters when we get on to In Space, but man, they're rough in this season. It really takes a long time for them to find their footing with those characters, both in terms of writing and in acting. And it's really not until the last, I want to say, 10 or 15 episodes that the show really starts cranking out some good ones. Like I said, I enjoy Trouble by the Slice. Parts and Parcel is the one everybody always goes to say, like, oh, no, there's good episodes in Turbo, look, see. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but this is the season where they set up a really cool idea for Bulk and Skull, and then they just randomly have them and Lieutenant Stone back to being police officers until halfway through the season when Lieutenant Stone takes over the juice bar for Ernie for no fucking reason. I don't know. The finale's okay. I like Chase into Space. It's a fun, like, let's just blow it all up and get out of here and get on to something else kind of finale. But there's really not a lot of good to this season. And it's not even, like, entertainingly bad to me. There's very few seasons of Power Rangers that I would call entertainingly or interestingly bad. This is one of those ones where it's just like, why are you doing this? This isn't fun to watch. I'm not having fun, but I'm also, like, not mad enough to put this in F. This is E tier for me. And that might be controversial. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would say this belongs in F. But that's just my feeling. Like I said, I didn't grow up with this season. So, like, watching it back, I was like, yeah, this is bad. I can very easily see why this is bad. But it's not, but it's all in the past, so it's not making me angry enough. I didn't have to sit through this week to week, so I don't have, like, the fuck this that I do with a certain other season that we'll get to later. Turbo had a lot going on in the background with actors changing, the Bulk and Skull show, Weird Sentai, main villain needing to go away for pregnancy, the list goes on. Yeah, Diva Talks is a weak excuse for a villain. Diva Talks suffers from actor availability issues, with the second part of the show is just better written. I would agree with that. I agree Justin is kind of the most well-written one. Yeah, like, there's always something going on with him and his real life. There's always some drama about, like, this or that is going on with his dad, and it's going to affect him being on the team in this or that way, or he's having issues at school, whereas the other Rangers are just like, oh no, I have to leave work to fight a monster. Like, that's the most interesting stuff what you get with the cast that carries over from Zeo in this season. And then, like I said, a lot of the stuff that happens with the new cast when they come halfway through, it is just, here are, it's very situational. It's very plot of the week, and you don't really get character development from them until In Space, I would say. Justin kind of makes sense with Beetleborgs being popular at the time. I've never thought of that, because, again, I don't have the context of the time, and I've actually never seen Beetleborgs myself, but that does make sense. Yeah, I can definitely see that going on. But, take a quick sip of my drink here. And now we get on to a real hot streak for Power Rangers. A lot of people argue this is the point where the franchise started peaking. And I'm inclined to agree with them at some points and disagree at some others. But the first one of these seasons we got to talk about is the final Zordon era season, Power Rangers in Space. A lot of people love this one. A lot of people see this as the absolute best of the best when it comes to Power Rangers. I think it's very, very good. I like a lot of the ideas going on here. Love these suits. Love the Zords and the technology in this season and everything. And having now seen Mega Ranger, I like all that stuff even more. I would argue now that I've seen Mega Ranger, there's certain parts of this season that I don't love as much as I used to. Like the Psycho Rangers arc, I hate to be this kind of a snob, but the Psycho Rangers arc is just done so much better in the Sentai. Like, there's a lot of awkward and weird stuff that stands out once you see the Mega Ranger version. And maybe that's just me, but personally, I prefer that portion of the show. I do like some of the new concepts we introduce here with the villains having more of a united front. The little bits you get here and there of seeing all the villains in the same room are so cool. I love how we build out a wider universe beyond just Earth, with the lead ranger of the season being an alien. Though technically not, because they say he's human. He's just not from Earth, which is still a weird idea to me, but whatever. And I will admit, like the whole Astronema secret long lost sister plot is done very, very well here. But it never hits quite as hard for me as a lot of people, as it seems to for a lot of other people, is what I want to say. I feel like it's a good ending to the show. It is definitely better. It is definitely better than any season we've seen up to this point. So I am going to put it in A tier. They really did everything they could to make this one count and give a good final ending, revisiting all these little bits. Like, I didn't even talk about Always a Chance and True Blue the Rescue. Two great, standout, very Gokaiger-esque before Gokaiger episodes. And there's some fun new side characters they introduce in this one, like Professor Phenomenus and Adele are great, don't nearly get the recognition they deserve. Like I was saying with Lieutenant Stone, people always go to like, oh, Bulk and Skull, the great side characters of Power Rangers. There's other ones too, you gotta talk about Lieutenant Stone, you gotta talk about Ernie, you gotta talk about Adele, you gotta talk about Professor Phenomenus. There's other things going on in the Power Rangers world besides just the Rangers, the villains, and Bulk and Skull. It's a great season. I gotta give it its due, but it's not a personal favorite, which is why I'm not putting it in S tier. Turbo was a step down from the series. Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think a lot of the middle chunk is just boring. The start and the end is incredible, though. Yeah, I can kind of see that, Aki. There's some good bits in that middle chunk. But there definitely is a lot of just, we are biding our time until we get into the big ending arc of the Psycho Rangers and everyone converging on Earth and all this and that in space. In Space has become a fan favorite in the fandom, and I can see why. Okay. Who was Adele? Adele was the proprietor of the surf spot, the replacement they had for Ernie's in this season, because they opted to just stop using that location for one reason or another. I don't think they've ever given a proper explanation for why they did that behind the scenes, but it's just about partway through Turbo, the new cast stops hanging out at Ernie's, and then in Space, after the first few episodes of them being out in space, when they come back to Earth, they find the surf spot and just start hanging out there. They just find it's just a different restaurant. It's not like Ernie's was torn down in continuity and replaced with the surf spot, but it's just there, and they find it and they start eating there, and they meet Adele, who is essentially a black female Ernie, and I would argue she's just as entertaining as Ernie, though she doesn't get nearly as many appearances as him. They definitely should have done more with her, I would say. Justin is a solid Ranger, definitely agree. Clownily Super Bowl. Lost Galaxy. Let's talk about Lost Galaxy, the first post-Zordon era season. I really like Lost Galaxy. I feel like Lost Galaxy is just such a ballsy and inventive and fun season, taking a Sentai that was literally about protecting a sacred forest and saying, no, this is a show about a space colony, is such like a we're gonna go crazy with this move. And I really like how inventive they get with it. Yeah, there's a lot of reused props and costumes from other productions because of how expensive that prospect is, but I would argue they make it all work and they kind of own it. Like, you don't really know that the costumes are from the GSA costumes are from Starship Troopers unless you're told that, or unless you had already seen Starship Troopers. And I'd argue not a lot of kids in, what was this, 1996 or 7 when this season came out? Not a lot of kids were going to see Starship Troopers at that time. And I really enjoy the Ranger cast for this season. Leo is a really endearing and badass and charismatic Red Ranger. Kai is kind of the first time they do that Sentai trope of the brainy and stuck-up Blue Ranger. And it's not the best attempt, but it's good. Maya is a fun Yellow Ranger. Kendricks is okay. I like Kendricks, but I actually really enjoy the arc later where, unfortunately, Valerie Vernon had to leave the show because of medical complications, and they brought in Corone as the new Pink Ranger. That's where I really get into the whole Corone Astronema character, is when she becomes the Pink Ranger in this show. I feel like they did such a good job with that arc and making her a interesting sort of redemption-seeking hero character. And then, of course, you have Damon, who's just a fun, kind of goofy Green Ranger character, and Mike / Magna Defender. The whole Magna Defender Lights of Orion arc that kind of takes up a lot of the start of this show is very interesting and fun. There's some kind of meh episodes. I don't love the last few episodes of the original Magna Defender, but it's done well enough, and I love Mike's debut as the Magna Defender. Generally, I think it's a pretty solid arc. And then, of course, you have the first inter-season crossover with 2 to 10th Power, which is very well done for its time, and the fact that the Space Rangers actually stick around for a little while to lead into Corone becoming the new Pink Ranger is a really neat little unique aspect of the show. You also have standout episodes like the Rescue Mission, the only episode of Power Rangers that features no Sentai footage outside of the intro. And, like, yeah, it's kind of just a rip-off of Aliens, but it's a very fun, like, children's show Aliens knockoff, and it's a very entertaining and well-executed episode, and I think the finale of this show is suitably epic and interesting, and for that reason, I would actually say there's very little about Lost Galaxy I don't like. I even really enjoy the villains. Once you get past that initial hump of Scorpius is the main villain initially, once Trakina becomes the main villain, and you go into like all this inter-villain conflict of people trying to decide her fate for her before she just becomes pure evil and takes the throne for herself, I really enjoy that stuff. I would actually say I found Scorpina a much, not Scorpina, Trakina. I don't know why I said Scorpina for a second there. I find Trakina a much more compelling villain than I do Astronema. She's much more interesting, I would say, because she's a tragic character. She doesn't get that redemption that Astronema gets. She embraces evil, and it costs her everything, even the person who cared about her the most. And there's just some great acting across the board in this season. The only real drawback is this is the first season where they stopped using Ron Wasserman as the series composer. I forget the name of the person who does the music from this point on, but the more like general heroic symphonic stuff just doesn't quite hit here. I would argue it gets better in later seasons, but in this one it's kind of eh. But overall, I really enjoy Lost Galaxy. I would also put this in A tier. I'm not going to put it over In Space, but I would put it between In Space and Season 3. It's just my opinion. Discount Star Trek is better than In Space. I am going to be controversial here. I saw Starship Troopers and immediately saw Lost Galaxy rerun, so I was really confused. That's hilarious, Aki. Wasn't there not a Lost Galaxy until the last 6 episodes? Yeah, that's true. That is a little drawback of the season. Lost Galaxy is more an arc in this show than it is the main plot. But I think that's more because they just chose the title because it sounded cool. And then they got to the end of the show and they were like, oh yeah, we haven't used the actual villain from the Sentai yet. And we haven't done anything with the name we came up with. Let's do that real quick before we get on to the final few episodes. And that whole arc is even interesting too. That leads to some great episodes. That whole one where, Leo and Damon have to go rescue a bunch of people who were captured from the colony is a really entertaining classic episode. I like Lost Galaxy. I'm not going to apologize for that at all. Lightspeed Rescue. This is another really good one, in my opinion. It's one of those seasons that's kind of lopsided in that there's things I like about it, and the things I like about it, I really like about it, but then there's also a lot of stuff that I could just take or leave. Like, it's probably the worst set of villains in the franchise, insofar as, like, they're not interesting, but they're also not, like, bad. They're just kind of there. They are just generic demon baddies who are there to menace this city so that the Rangers can fight them. That being said, there are some really interesting Rangers in this show. It's been said time and time again, but Carter really is one of the best Red Rangers. I really like the Mitchell family and their whole dynamic. You know, Captain Mitchell as the mentor of the season, Dana as the Pink Ranger, and then, of course, Ryan as the first ever Power Rangers original Ranger, the Titanium Ranger. First of all, great suit, complements the main ones really well. Really interesting and well-rounded character who gets a lot to do despite not having that many appearances due to footage reasons. And then there's the rest of the team who are just either just kind of there or really problematic. Like, I can't be bothered at all to care about the Yellow and Blue Rangers from this season to the point where I can never remember their names. And then you have Joel, who is just straight up a weird rapey creeper guy. Like, they try as hard as they can to make it endearing, and it was an endearing character type at the time, but man, it has not aged well, especially because of one scene in particular. And I don't know, it's a huge kind of blemish on this season. That being said, the music gets a little better here. I love these Zords and the costumes in general, and all the extra bits of tech they throw out constantly to up the Rangers' arsenal. I feel like there's some really strong, like, one-shot episodes, like Yesterday Again and Cyborg Rangers. Oh god, what is it called? The episode where they get into Captain Mitchell's backstory. I'm gonna look this up real quick, actually, because I love this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of Power Rangers, and it's really bothering me that I can't remember the name. I don't want to just gloss over this. A Face from the Past. A Face from the Past is a fantastic episode. Really, really love that one. There's also some just some solid directing and action choreography in this season. Another one where that stuff really peaked, in my opinion. But because of the lame villains and the kind of forgettable Rangers, I can't in good confidence put this one in A tier or even really above Zeo in the B tier. I'm gonna have to stick this in lower B for me. It's not quite C, but it's just it's like the stuff I really love. I really love it, but it doesn't save the season overall for me to get it above some of those other ones. Alright, what's the chat saying? Trakina might be the best female villain in PR, to be honest. That's arguable, but I could definitely see you making the argument. She is great. The Aquabase getting destroyed gave me chills back in the day. Yeah, that finale in Lightspeed Rescue is so damn good. Love the Aquabase as a base location, but just the way they kind of like gave finality to that season by having it get destroyed in those last couple episodes was so well directed, especially with the performance Captain Mitchell's actor gave. Was great. Yeah, the Rangers were kind of plain this series. I couldn't tell you a single thing about the Blue Ranger. You can't remember Chad? He had an entire story with his martial arts where he fought the director of Deadpool and the one where he was involved with That's right! There is an episode where they say mermaids exist in the Power Rangers universe. I forgot about that. Jesus Christ, that episode was stupid. Lightspeed Rescue did have best monster designs in the franchise, have to data. There are some good monster designs. The characterization for the monsters just isn't very good this season, I would say. He was called Chad. I had the PS1 game for Lightspeed, and I couldn't even remember his name. I always mix up Blue Ranger with Time Force Blue Ranger. That's fair. That's a weird commonality between this season and the next one, is both the Blue Rangers are kind of forgettable. And hey, let's talk about Time Force now that I'm caught up with the chat. Time Force, oh man, I'm gonna make some people mad here. I think Time Force is really overrated. I will give you, it's got some good concepts. It plays around with the time travel idea and the sort of philosophies that come with that a lot more than you would expect. There's some solid acting here. Frax and Rancic are charismatic villains, but that's kind of it. I can't really remember a lot of standout episodes or plot lines. Aside from Wes and Jen's romantic subplot, there's not much interesting stuff going on with the Rangers. I do like Wes's sort of conflict with his father and rivalry with Eric. Eric is a great Sixth Ranger, but I don't care about Katie, I don't care about Trip, I don't care about another Blue Ranger. I just can't remember his name. Somebody will tell me in the chat. But I super don't care about that Blue Ranger, especially because that actor is kind of a dickhead in real life. And that's the first time I mentioned that this whole list. There are some dickhead actors in the history of Power Rangers, but Michael Copon is just one of those guys where it's like he thinks he's way bigger of a celebrity than he actually is. And also, isn't that hilarious? I can remember the actor name because I've talked about how much of a dickhead the actor is, but I can't remember the character's name. Oh man, it tells you something about that character. But yeah, I don't know. I also really don't like, hot take, I don't like the suits and Zords this season. I feel like they're all very lazily designed. I don't know who, when they were making Time Ranger, thought like arrows was such a cool idea for a design motif, but it's not. It looks kind of lazy. Like I honestly think, aside from the Time Fire / Quantum Ranger suit, almost everything in this show looks like a fan design. There's one clever thing they do with having the sword be hands of a clock, but other than that, don't care for it. And I don't know. There's some good music this season. Really like this theme song. But this one just doesn't hit for me the way it seems to do for everyone else. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I can't in good confidence put it any higher than B. And even then, it's a low B for me. I know there's probably some people mad at me in the chat, and we're going to go to them in just a moment, but, man, yeah. That kind of feels unintentionally racist when the only common thing is that both the characters are Asian. Maybe, but there's other Asian characters in the franchise I like. I don't know if you're saying, like, I'm unintentionally racist or the show's unintentionally racist, but... didn't mean it in any racist way, just a terrible memory. Sorry if I offended anyone. No, it's not an issue. It's not intentional. Time Force has such a strong opening few episodes. I watched them the other day. That's fair. There's some good scenes in the first few episodes, but it just kind of meanders after that until you get to the end of the show, I would say. Time Force is the best season IMO. That's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. The most I cared about Lucas, that's his fucking name, was in Nadira's Dream Date because I love Nadira. That's fair, but I didn't particularly care for Nadira. She was either just there or kind of annoying IMO. But the Dream Date episode is kind of entertaining just for how Rancic acts in that episode. The suits are awesome. The suits are mid. The Zords are mid, but the suits slap. That's fair. You guys are welcome to feel that way. I just don't. I really don't. The only suit in this whole show that really speaks to me is Time Fire. Even the Q-Rex, I would argue, is kind of lame. Especially because it is this huge bulky thing that's entirely based around the toy has an automatic walking feature. I do like the Time Force suits, especially the colored visors. The colored visors are a cool idea, I just don't think they're done very effectively here. I found Nadira hilarious as a kid. I can't remember her having any really strong comedy moments, but you're welcome to feel that way, Aki. Now let's go on to Wild Force. Wild Force, I actually really like Wild Force. I know it's kind of a divisive season for people, but I feel like it's very, very strong. I like a lot of the Ranger characters. Like, I would say just about every Ranger is interesting and charismatic in their own way. Oh, hold on. Hello? Oh, hey, it's Buster, everybody. Buster's here. Hang on, let me get your PNG up. Oh my god. I just started talking about Wild Force. No. I went on the Time Force rant for you. It's okay, because I think that season's overrated too. And I was saying, like, I was saying earlier, like, there was two big drawbacks to you missing the stream, which was that you turned me on to something I really don't like about Zeo, despite liking the rest of that show, and you woke me up to the fact that Time Force is kind of overrated. But if you want to just quick go through the first, 9 seasons of the show and give your thoughts and get your rankings going, we can do that. Oh, Boulderman says, can't hear Buster. Let me just... Oh, yeah, I didn't have desktop audio on. Can you say something real quick?
Testing. Dang. I guess I was the one with audio issues that time.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is I forgot... I never said this publicly, but sorry about forgetting to turn my mic on for half the stream last time. Glad we remembered to make sure that's happening. And hey, it's been a much more lively chat, so even if I hadn't, people would have told me right away. Let's see. Wild Force just isn't for me. Does have some of the best crossover episodes, though. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
talk
I
about
can
that
agree.
in a minute. Buster, you got the tier list up?
Yeah, I'm gonna start ranking shit. All right. Also, let me put your stream on muted so I can look at chat.
Yeah. So, just real quick, give like, I don't know, we can take 10, 20 minutes for you to do MMPR Season 1 through Time Force.
Okay. I'm gonna count. Here's the thing for me. I like counting like multiple season sagas as like one season. So MMPR will be fully ranked. I also there's the rankings will go up to D, so there'll be S, A, B, C, D,
Okay.
and MMPR. Gonna be honest, once and always kind of turned me on it, so I'm gonna put it in B.
Really? Because I remember you used to be one of the biggest detractors of MMPR back in the day. Like, even more so than I am.
I wrote a video. It's still not out yet, but I wrote a video about how kind of like once and always kind of made me realize this is a fine show. It's still very flawed. I still think like everything I said negatively about that in my original video still stands.
Yeah, I definitely think it gets better as it goes on.
Oh yeah, like season 3 is really fun. Except for the ninja stuff, I still hate the ninja stuff. But that's just me. No, Zeo, I'm gonna put that also in B. Zeo is what I consider.
What about Alien Rangers?
Alien Rangers goes in D. Just D. I hate Alien Rangers.
I knew it. I knew you still hated that.
Yeah. Screw Alien Rangers. Zeo, I made a whole video about it. I'm still pretty proud of that video, so if my opinion still stands. I hate the Native American subplot, but everything else is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a fun show until you realize they were horribly insensitive to Native Americans.
Yeah, that was yeah, we're gonna get to insensitive later on in the podcast live stream thing. So yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, folks. If you want to hear more of me and Buster talking, we do a weekly Tokusatsu podcast on Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Ultraman, and any indie projects that pop up as time goes on over on Modular Media right here on YouTube. It's called This Week in Toku, aka Twit. Comes out every Tuesday morning.
Yeah. Okay, where were we? Turbo. I wrote a video on Turbo. It never came out because reasons. But that's going in C. Like, I actually enjoy a lot about Turbo, especially in the second half.
Interesting.
But, it's mostly nostalgia bias for the movie. I watched that movie so many times as a kid. I have more nostalgia for that movie than the MMPR movie. I'm gonna be frank.
I think I saw bits and pieces of the movie once as a kid, but all I ever really remember is, like, Jason and Kimberly stuck in the submarine or whatever it is.
I didn't even know they were past Rangers. Turbo was, like, besides the currently airing stuff, Turbo was, like, my first introduction to, like, Saban era PR.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it just, like, that movie, like, it's not a good movie, but it captured my imagination as a kid. So, like, I have a little bit of Turbo bias in me. In Space is next. I'm gonna put that in B. I think it's a good show. Kind of like, it doesn't work as a standalone in my opinion. Just because it's like
you need to have had the kind of context and build-up of the previous 5 seasons.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a good show. I just don't think it's as good of a standalone as people think it is.
Yeah.
Like,
some of the best episodes of that show, some of my favorite episodes, Always a Chance and True Blue to the Rescue. You're not going to enjoy those episodes at all if you haven't seen those characters before.
Yeah. Now, Lost Galaxy is what I think people say In Space is, because I love Lost Galaxy. I think it's some of the best Power Rangers ever. I'm putting it in A tier. I love Lost Galaxy so much. And then
actually, you know what? I was being nice and saying, like, In Space is more iconic. It's like overall a little bit more clear. But your enthusiasm just reminded me. I like Lost Galaxy better than In Space. I'm gonna move In Space or Lost Galaxy to the front of my A tier.
Yeah, Lost Galaxy is so good. It also helps that, like, it was, I have a bit of Vortex bias, because I caught the first few episodes on Vortex.
Oh, like, yeah, remember Vortex, everybody? That thing Saban had on, what was it, Kids WB for, like, a week?
Yeah, oh my, like I was a big guy, like that was replaced 4Kids entertainment for me, and I love 4Kids. 4Kids I grew up with probably arguably more than Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, so it's like, yeah, that probably explains how I am today with my anime bias and stuff. But that's besides the point. Lightspeed Rescue. I need to rewatch this one, but honestly, it's a good show. Just
Yeah.
not much to say. Yeah, it has some Power Ranger trappings, but like, hey, what season doesn't? I'm mostly thinking of Vipera is the biggest detractor. Like
The villains in general in that season just aren't interesting to me, and also like half the Ranger team either isn't interesting or is problematic.
yeah, Titanium Ranger goaded though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, where were we?
Now we're on Wild Force, but or wait, you need to do Time Force.
Yeah, Time Force. C. You know why?
Yeah. Okay, Wild Force. I really like Wild Force. As I was saying earlier, I know it's kind of divisive, but I feel like it's a really strong season on the whole. Almost all the Rangers are charismatic and fun in their own right. Cole has a really cool arc that runs through the whole show. Same thing with Taylor. And then the other three of the main five at least have fun stuff going on most of the time. Merrick's not the best Sixth Ranger, but he's not outright terrible, I'd say. The Zen-Aku introductory episodes are really good. Love the suits and Zords this season, even if the CGI is a little awkward. The villains
the CGI hold up. I think it still holds up. Like it kind of has a charm to it. I don't know how to explain
it hasn't gotten worse with age, but it was a little awkward compared to other stuff that was coming out at the time. And the villains are either really charismatic and fun, or just really interesting in how they unveil more of the backstory of the show as time goes on. And I would say this is where, like, obviously it's the last season they were doing this, but this is where the post-Wasserman symphonic stuff peaks. I love the music in this show.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention, like, a friend of mine really turned me on the music of Wild Force, because I think especially the Zord transformation music, that goes hard.
Yeah. The big holdback for this season with me is the whole Animus arc. The whole the like big chunk in the middle where the show just takes time out of its day to go like, hey, the environment is going to shit and that's your fault. Fuck you, viewer. It feels really obnoxious and like it's talking down to the audience. And
Ultraman Gaia, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's one of the few seasons of Power Rangers where I would say it feels like it's talking to an audience that's much younger than the actual audience from the show. But other than that, I still really enjoy most of this show. I would say it's A tier. I'm gonna put it. I don't know. Should I put it?
Okay, I was gonna put it in A tier too, but then I remember the Animus stuff. But everything else is so good. But the Animus stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to
put it in A tier, but I'm going to put it between Lost Galaxy and Space.
Yeah, I'm going to put it below Lost Galaxy, because Lost Galaxy is currently my only A tier.
Okay. Alright, let's catch up on the chat. Wild Force is such a strong series. Decent story, likable characters, great crossover. It's a solid series for sure. Yeah, definitely agree there, Boulder Man. At least the Turbo movie had Power Rangers in it. We had to wait like 25 minutes for first in the MMPR movie. Yeah, both MMPR movies. We had to wait like an hour in 2017, didn't we?
Yeah, and at least the character building was fine, mostly.
Yeah. Welcome to the chat, Sticky's Online, I think is how you pronounce that name?
Sticks, he's a buddy in my Discord.
Oh, okay. God, I remember Vortex. That was how I first saw DBZ. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We didn't have Vortex in the UK, we just had Fox Kids. Well, the thing is, Boingo, or, I'm sorry, Boulder Man, I'm so used to just rebuttaling to Boingo on Modular Media. Vortex didn't come until much later. Like, Vortex was 2012, 2013, I want to say?
Yeah, it was only, like, year long. And it was, like, the last Saturday morning kids block.
Yeah. It was during that whole period of Neo Saban, where Saban Brands was really trying to make all the business strategies of the 90s work in the 2010s, and it just didn't.
Yeah. we'll get to that soon.
Yeah, Zenaku / Merrick introduction is extremely similar to Green with Evil, if I remember. Wasn't that also 5 episodes long? I think it's around that length, and it definitely does have a similar vibe to it.
Yeah. All right, time for our first major disagreement, I think.
Hang on, we got 2 more chats. I think I liked Wild Force so much as a kid because the Zords went back to the old style of 5 Zords combining into 1. I can definitely see that. Vortex was literally only 2012 through 2014 on the CW. Damn, that's a short run.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we had the CW. I don't know why we still have the CW. I don't know why WB hasn't shut that network down yet, because it produces nothing but crap, but, whatever. All right. Let's do it. Let's do Ninja Storm. I know this season has its fans. I know I'm talking to one of them right now, but I just don't vibe with it. I don't find any of these characters interesting or funny. I've never been into the extreme sports scene. I think that I just don't like these suits at all. The public domain music really doesn't work for me in Power Rangers, and the villains, like, first of all the monster suits this season suck ass. They're
Even
way
the
too
shark one?
Yeah, they're way too complicated. I don't like how much they have going on. And I don't find any of the characters interesting. The one saving grace with this season for me is Cam. I love Cam. I love the snarky, I could do better than you tech support character type. It's done really well here, especially because he does get a chance to try and do better than the other Rangers at one point, and he gets proven a little wrong. He gets proven to be no better or worse than the rest of the team, and he's still a competent member of the team. And I would argue he has the best suit of any of the characters, even though it's still not great in my opinion. So I'm gonna put Ninja Storm in D above MMPR season 1. I'm not gonna call it outright bad, but it's just really weak in my opinion.
Okay, I can understand, like, vibing, because this has, like... I kind of always like jokes in Power Rangers. I feel like this is the funniest season for me.
Almost none of the jokes land for me.
Yeah, that's fair, because it's a very, like, weird kind of humor. It's... I don't know how to explain it. It's, like, too...
There's like, people share gags from this show as, like, meme screen caps all the time. The only one I'm always like, okay, that's kind of good, is, who do we fight? Anyone not wearing a primary color. That was a funny line.
Yeah, it's like, it started kind of the self-aware kind of stuff that would, like, bleed into the rest of the Disney-era shows. Like, because I feel like a lot of the Disney-era shows, even before RPM, had a lot of quips that would kind of be like, hey, let's have a tongue-in-cheek, we're Power Rangers kind of joke. I do love... Ninja Storm I have a lot of love for. I love the characters. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like... I think it was one of, like, the earliest... I just kept watching the finale. I guess it was on a Dino Thunder disc. Because, like, the weird thing Disney-era Power Ranger DVDs used to do is that they would have, like, here's Dino Thunder, here's, like, 4 episodes of Dino Thunder, and then here's the last 2 episodes of Ninja Storm for some reason.
Weird.
Yeah, and I still love Ninja Storm. Like, I'm rewatching it, just... I love the jokes. Lothar is a great comedic villain. I think... I'm putting this in S. This is one of my personal favorites. I don't know how to explain it, because I don't want to, like, step on your toes, but, like...
No, it's fine to disagree.
Yeah, I know, yeah, and I understand. It's a very specific vibe, but it's a vibe I enjoy a lot.
That's fair. Let's go to the chat. Samurai Ranger is one of the best Ranger suits. You cannot change my mind. Totally fair to feel that way. I think it's really good for this season. It's just not great overall. I had recently rewatched Ninja Storm, and I ended up not liking it as much. That's interesting, Aki. The elephant in the room for Ninja Storm is the audio satellite. Yeah, that's right. This is the first season they produced in New Zealand, and because of that, there's a lot of, like, awkwardness to it in production, with, like, the audio quality especially. There's just something about the way they mixed it. It didn't quite work out. Ninja Storm is a good time. It's fair to feel that way, Clowny Super Bowl. But now, let's get on to my kind of definitive Power Rangers duology. Two of my favorite seasons right here, and it probably has a lot to do with this is when I got into it. Because the first... my earliest memory of Power Rangers is seeing an ad for Dino Thunder. I didn't start watching until around the time of SPD, but I caught Dino Thunder in reruns at that time as well, and I've since gone back and rewatched it, and I absolutely love Dino Thunder. I feel like all the Rangers are really interesting updates on some of the MMPR archetypes. I really like how the season in general is just, let's go back to the original idea of the show about a bunch of kids in high school getting dinosaur-themed superpowers, and let's do a modern take on that. And it ends up feeling a lot smarter and cleverer for its time than the original show did. I would argue Dino Thunder holds up better than MMPR Season 1, even though it is just as dated as MMPR Season 1. Like
It's 2000s. It's the 2000s Power Rangers, definitive 2000s.
Yeah, the character types that the main three have are very much of that time. So much so to the point where I didn't like Kira as a kid just because she acted a lot like one of my sisters, and I found that particular sister very annoying. But I've grown to like her because of that reason. And it's the type of like artistic musical girl that only really existed during that time, and has kind of been subsumed since by people who are real ladies who are really into like Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift, that kind of person. And Ethan is very much a 2000s nerd, but he's still entertaining and interesting. Connor is such a good Red Ranger. I love how he starts out as pretty much an out-and-out dickhead, but over the course of the season becomes more and more likable and like changes probably the most as a person out of any Power Ranger I can think of.
Yeah.
And that's without even getting... All of that is without even getting to the elephant in the room with this season of, hey, Tommy's back! And it's kind of the best Tommy ever gets as a character. Love how they kind of evolve JDF's dude bro ultimate hero into the kind of... very much trying to keep up with the kids and always coming just short, but still likable mentor character. I like the sense of mysticism he adds to this season of a character from the show's past. I absolutely love the whole arc with him having to go into his inner consciousness and realize that he has to be a person beyond just being a ranger. All that stuff is so good. And then you of course have the 6/5th ranger in this season, Trent, who is a really good sort of rehash of the original Green Ranger character type, and ends up being a pretty fun character in his own right, and pretty good time to talk about. These are some of the best suits in the entire franchise. I love the Abba Ranger suits. I love the Zord design this season. All the weapons are super fun. And even though it is public domain music again, I feel like they use it to much greater effect in this season. And you can't deny that theme song is freaking amazing.
Yeah. Like, even like an anime channel, like an anime cover channel, covered that song once.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have a really good villain cast. Like, here's the thing. Mesogog... I'm just going to say it. Mesogog is a better American original villain than Lord Zed. He is a fantastic suit design. He's a really cool, creepy performance. There's a lot going on with the character that Zed didn't have that makes him terrifying and sympathetic at the same time. And it's all because they basically just said, what if the Green Goblin was a Power Rangers villain?
Yeah.
And it works so well.
Yeah. Oh my god. You messing up. Now, can I say my
Yeah,
take
yeah.
on
Go
Dino
ahead, go
Thunder?
ahead, and then we'll rank them.
All right. I love Operator a lot. This kind of the reverse Time Force for me, where it's like I love the Sentai a lot, but that doesn't affect my enjoyment of the Power Rangers adaptation.
Nice.
Because I really love Dino Thunder a lot. I think, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of, like, the way they adapted the freaking anime crossover episode into the Mad Mackerel.
Yeah.
Like, knowing that actually enhanced Dino Thunder.
Or like Lost and Found in Translation, such a great little episode before it was even like a popular thing for older fans to be watching Sentai at the same time as Power Rangers. Just like this little episode that goes like, hey, Sentai exists, we're acknowledging that, it's cool to like both.
Yeah, and like it was pretty much made to be just we need a filler episode or some shit, and it's like one of the best Power Rangers episodes in general. And yeah, I do agree. The Operator suit design is great, and just the original suit that they made for Mesogog. Oh, that's like peak suit design. I'm so glad they made a Lightning collection of it this year. Just yeah, Dino Thunder's great. I'm putting it in an A.
I'm putting it in S. I think Dino
Yeah.
Thunder is the first legitimately goated season. Like there's only like very slight nitpicky drawbacks to this season in terms of like I love all the setup with Zeltrax. It's a great suit design. It's really cool to have this direct rivalry between the mentor and one of the villain henchmen. The payoff is a little meh, but other than that,
I think you would like
it's
it
great.
better in Operator. I think you'd like that payoff better in Operator.
Oh, I
honestly.
probably would.
And like speaking of Operator, yeah, Operate Killer's like on a league of its own, but Trent is still a great character. Like I'd say.
Definitely. All right. Chat's saying Dino Thunder is iconic. I saw Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm one after another during the Power Rangers block. That's interesting. Can never forget Tommy Oliver kicking a dinosaur in the face in the first 10 minutes. That's right. That shit's iconic. Trent as the White Ranger is not the best evil ranger that redeemed that we ever got. Not the most iconic, just the best. It's a little confusingly worded, but I think I get what you're going for, and I kind of agree, Clowny Super Bowl. Oh yes, Tommy fighting all his past Ranger powers. Definitely all of the logistics.
The major ones.
Yeah, all the ones people remember and you can't argue are more definitively with another character. Like, did we really need Turbo Red in that episode? Come on.
Yeah, what would that represent?
Yeah, suddenly Selwyn Ward just shows up. That's the other thing, is like, there's also like such cool concepts they had for this season that they didn't get to do, and it's still a really good season. Like, they planned to do a Zeo reunion episode in the middle of it, and they couldn't get all the actors to agree on a date and a salary for it. But
I'm kind of glad they did it.
Yeah.
Be frank. Just because, like, I think the Ninja Storm crossover is just, like, you know, that's all you kind of need for a crossover.
yeah, that's the other thing. This is probably my favorite. Like, for as much as I don't care for Ninja Storm, probably the best crossover episode in the entire franchise.
Yeah. Like, it plays into, like, all the crossover tropes, but very earnestly.
Dino Thunder, goated as hell. Kind of funny how its theme is one of, like, free PR themes that don't ever have the word go in it. Yeah, that's true. Alright, SPD. SPD is an interesting season to talk about because I have a real soft spot for it. Depending on the day, it's either SP or Dino Thunder that is my favorite season. I do still really, really like it. I feel like fantastic suit and sword designs. Even though the Kale explosions are very prominent this season.
Well, they're more Sakamoto explosions.
Yeah, the Sakamoto explosions. We should give them their proper name. The Sakamoto explosions are very prominent this season, but when you take that out of the equation, the action is still really good. I like a lot of the characters. For a long time, I used to say Bridge is my favorite Ranger. I don't know who my favorite Ranger is anymore. I don't tend to think about favorites too much these days, but
Bridge is still, like, the best character of the season, I'd say.
I argue, like, all three of the main guys are really good characters. Like, I really like all the pathos Sky has. I like the sort of journey Jack goes on as a leader. And then Bridge is just a funny little guy. And that's not to say the girls don't have anything going on either, because there's some interesting little character bits here and there for Z, and Sid is about as well as I've ever seen the stereotypical girly girl Pink Ranger done. She's not great, but she's still really solid. And then you have all the extra characters amongst the hero cast this season, like Doggy Kruger, kind of in a freeway tie with Tommy and another character we'll talk about in a little bit for best mentor, in my opinion. Love his backstory, love him getting to become a ranger, and just the fact that they convey so much character through a kind of bulky and awkward alien suit design is really impressive.
Yeah.
Kat's a great tech support character along with Boom, and Sam also exists.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue of SPD. Like, they had, like, an opportunity with the Omega Ranger concept. Granted, It was just to save on budget, but they had an opportunity to do some really cool, like, suit acting, and they just didn't.
Give some pathos to the idea that this guy doesn't really have a body right now, and that would be really weird and dysmorphic for someone. Or, hey, he had, like, a really nice introduction of being like friends and having like an older sister dynamic with Z, and then when he shows up as a ranger, they never acknowledge that. Very odd. But then there's some great villains in this season.
Grum is another great villain suit design.
Love the kind of reinterpretation. He's not quite as good as Mesogog or Lord Zed, but I love how he's kind of like a modern take on Lord Zed, of just like this creepy looking demonic intergalactic conqueror who actually has like an even scarier boss above him. Broodwing is a good adaptation of the Sentai villain, though not quite as good from what I've seen. I still need to watch Deca Ranger. There's a lot of Sentais I need to watch, but Deca Ranger is definitely high up on my list. I like Mora. I don't feel like she's a great female villain, but she's pretty good, and the concept is really fun. And then there's just some solid storytelling throughout this season. Like, the thing that makes this show a little awkward to talk about nowadays is the fact that we're living in a time that's very unfriendly to the police as a concept. The police are not a popular apparatus of our world anymore. And even back then, they really weren't. It just wasn't discussed as much. And it was a little easier to do a show like this. But the thing is, this show also does a lot of discussion of that as a concept, of how, like, people join the police out of a sense of duty, even though they might have a better place in the world besides that. Like, by the end of the show, Jack leaves SPD because he realizes this isn't what he wants to do with his life, but he's still helping people. And there's, like, Sky's whole character arc is perpetrated in, my dad was a Power Ranger and he died in the line of duty, so I should live up to his legacy and be a Power Ranger too, which is a thing a lot of police officers have. And I feel like they discuss that all really interestingly. And there's even an episode that's kind of about how the police can kind of be a racist system, with the whole two-parter in the middle, where we find out this version of the future is very unfriendly to cyborgs. It's a little odd that they went for that as the allegory when there's aliens integrated into Earth's society from the get-go, and you could have just used them, but they still do it, and I feel like they do it pretty well for Power Rangers. That being said, though, because we're living in a time where the police aren't a popular concept, I can't in good conscience put this in S tier. I'm gonna put it in A tier. It's gonna be my highest ranked A tier so far, but it's just kind of held back by that part of me that goes like, yeah, but in the real world the police kind of suck though, which isn't a fault of the show. It's just a fault of me.
Nah, it's like it's fine. It's fine. I understand. I put it at like the lowest A tier for me.
Yeah.
Because basically, I didn't really talk about it, but like I do like SPD. It's just like I don't think as strongly of it as some of my favorites. So
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, SPD is also a very popular choice for favorite season. It's one of those ones that constantly gets talked about by fans. So I can see why you wouldn't want to talk about it that often, because it's not even that much of... It's so talked to death, you probably don't have a lot to add to the conversation, right?
yeah, probably. It's also just like I'm not as passionate about it, especially because the Omega Ranger stuff kind of ticks me off.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I can't put in S tier because the whole Six Ranger situation. But Chad is saying the Ninja Storm crossover episode was nice to give those Rangers their powers back. Yeah, like that they cleared that up. SPD got gassed up so much, and I have to agree. Doggy Kruger was one of the best characters in the franchise. Yeah, love me some Lizard Dog. I agree, Doggy is a great character. You gotta love that we got a newer version of that mask than the Sentai. Yeah, that's another interestingly contentious thing about SPD. I've met people who love Deca Ranger and hate SPD simply because they changed Doggy's costume.
I mean, that's just typical Sentai bias.
Yeah. But, you want to go ahead and get on to Mystic Force?
Can I start with Mystic Force? Because I think I have a more positive opinion on this show than you.
You probably do, yeah. Because I don't dislike Mystic Force, but it's not very high up in my opinion.
Mystic Force is a frustrating season, but I like a lot about it. I like Six Rangers, like it's multiple Six. It kind of continues the SPD thing of like there's billions of Six Rangers out there. There's that, and I also really love most of the main cast. Nick is a bastard.
Really?
Nick is a real bastard. I think Madison is good, but very underdeveloped. Vida and Chip are Kino, and Xander. Well, Xander's on a league of his own.
See, I like Chip and Xander, but I could take or leave just about everyone else.
Yeah, it's just Nick. Come on, man. Like, what? It's not even that he's a bastard. I don't mind that, but just he doesn't have the riz.
He's a standard chosen one character that they try to make act like a cool tough guy loner, and it just comes off as being a dick.
Yeah. Like, it's a good concept, but just not executed well.
The world is also really awkward, because from what I know of it, Magi Ranger is a very, like, fun, lighthearted magic season, and they try to kind of, like, dark and dour everything down and make it feel a little more like urban fantasy. And it just feels awkward. I don't like that aesthetic in my Power Rangers. I do really like the suits this season. I think these are some of the best Ranger suits. But, a lot of the Zords I could take or leave, I'll say. Like, I like the, I don't remember the name of a lot of the Zords this season, but I like the Train one, I like the Centaur one, but that's about it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't care for any of the Six Ranger characters. Like, Udana is an okay mentor, but I can never remember anything about Solaris Knight as a character, and Korag is a really obvious reveal that by the time he becomes a Ranger, I kind of just don't care.
I don't know. I mean, Korag, I just like, yeah, it's an obvious reveal, but also just like, I like that character. I like the villainous, like, knight character, and like his re-debut as like the fire form was really cool. So
fair enough.
Putting that in like the lowest.
I will say this: Korag is the best villain in the show. A lot of the other villains are just kind of there, in my opinion. Like, Necrolite has some interesting stuff going on with her daughter, but it never quite gets to a point where it's like I super care about what happens to them.
Yeah, I'm putting Mystic Force in the lowest B, mainly because I like a lot of the concepts and characters. The overall show kind of doesn't coalesce, but like, I don't know. I still like a lot about it. It's frustrating. It's one of the seasons that I wish I could rewrite. You know? Yeah,
I'm gonna put it in the lowest C. But I feel like that's really just a matter of taste in our disagreement there.
Oh, speaking of taste.
Yeah, but first, let's check on the chat. I agree, Doggy. I read that already. I love Mystic Force. I think the cast is great. The cast are pretty good. They're all doing a good job with the material they're given. I just don't particularly care for a lot of the characters. Both Doggy's masks are fine, but I do kind of like the JP version more, plus it lasted longer anyway. That's true, but that's just the difference in materials they used. And the fact that they kept bringing Doggy back into Sentai. Doggy Kruger shows up like every couple of years in Super Sentai for a crossover or something like that, where I don't think we've seen him since SPD and Power Rangers. Urban fantasy is one of my favorite genres, so I have a lot more soft spot for Mystic Force. That's fair, Hockey. I tried Mystic Force a few years ago, and I never got on with it, most likely because it's very different to all the series before it. Yeah, it definitely does feel like a bit of a departure, especially because this is the 2 seasons where they had rap theme songs. I actually don't hate the idea of a rap theme song for Power Rangers as much as everybody else. I feel like it can be good. It's just it never quite gets good with the ones they used. And that's kind of disappointing, especially because Mystic Force has like 3 or 4 demo themes, 2 of which are by Ron Wasserman, and both his rock and his rap theme are far better than the one they went with, in my opinion.
The 2000, like, the demo rap theme they had sounds like the 2003 Ninja Turtles theme to me. I don't know why.
I can see that. It's got a similar beat to it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Overdrive. Another season a lot of people like to dogpile on. And I definitely do agree. It's one of the worst in the franchise. This is like... I've said things that are similar to him, but this is one of the few times where I will straight up agree with Linkara. Everybody always says, like, oh, this season is great, or oh, this season is terrible, except for Once a Ranger. That episode is great. No, Once a Ranger sucks. It's a microcosm of everything wrong with this season. Like, just terrible, unlikable characters, really awkward storytelling, suits that are just plain awful. I hate the Bokenger suits. And villains that act like incompetent buffoons most of the time. It's just not a fun show. Like, it's only frustratingly bad because of the Mac is a robot thing. Otherwise, it's very similar to Turbo in that it's just not fun to watch. It's kind of a slog to get through. And the only thing I kind of like about this season, and even then, I know this is a huge like departure from popular opinion. I actually kind of like this theme song.
Same.
Yeah, this theme song actually has a decent beat to it. You actually feel a bit of punch to the "Go Rangers, go Rangers, go, go, go." Whereas Mystic Force is just kind of like a little too calm for a Power Rangers theme.
And it's like when they say it's treasure to be found, there's some lives, but it's like, oh yeah, the shit's getting real, you know? It's
it has some epicness to it, unlike the Mystic Force theme. However, it's nowhere near as good as the Turbo theme, so that combined with all the other problems with the show, I am putting this, this is my first F tier.
That's fair. I understand all the problems. I need to rewatch this season still. But from what I remember, and also, keep in mind, I have nostalgia bias for this, because I watched Once a Ranger all the time, and, like, this was before my critical brain developed. And, like, I don't hate Once a Ranger. I still like a lot of moments in it. Like, the overall plot is a bit messy, but most of the anniversary specials have messy plots, so it's like, it's like...
There's only, like, 2 good anniversary specials, and even then, both of them, one of them kind of has a messy plot. Like, we didn't talk about it at all with Wild Force, but Forever Red is a fun episode that moves so fast you just don't have time to question all the little plot holes.
Yeah, even then, most of the plot holes are mostly just like, oh, we need to finish this.
Yeah.
Like, just, it's like, oh, it's a 20-minute episode. I still think it's a good episode.
Oh, yeah, Forever Red is so fun. I rewatch that at least once a year.
Yeah, Overdrive, and especially now you can watch it on YouTube, so it's like easy to watch once a year.
Yeah.
Also, most of these seasons are on YouTube, so if you want to like watch them for yourselves, go ahead.
Yeah.
Overdrive. Oh, I'm trying to think, because I don't know where to rank this. Because I'm like, I like the third act is real good. I like the third act, especially the Back as a Row. I think Sentinel Knight isn't the best character, but I have a fondness for him because he inspired me a lot for some concepts, original story concepts, and also I just really like the once and always where just Mac uses him to just slice down a monster in half. It's like nonsense, but I love it a lot. I'm gonna put. If you want,
I'm not gonna get mad. I'm not gonna argue.
Yeah, you will kind of worn me down on Overdrive. High C.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. That's a tasty drink. All right. Chet says the other demo theme for Mystic Force is a bit better in my opinion. Yeah, I think we pretty much said we agree with that. Big old clunk of chats from Clowny Super Bowl. Operation Overdrive gets so much hate, and I'm over it. It's a top 10 season to me. Good characters, good villains, an epic crossover, a great twist, and the globe-trottering aspect is very unique. Moltar, Furious, Kandor, Matrix, the Fear Cats, Frax, all enjoyable villains to me. Sentinel Knight is iconic. Perfectly fine to feel that way. I completely disagree.
Yeah.
I can't...
the Boulder character is great.
Yeah, Boulderman says, I can't remember his name, but the Butler character is great from what I remember. Yeah, Spencer had some good one-liners. I'll give the show that. Spencer was good at taking the piss out of the other characters a lot. Now we come to the season I think you're probably going to have the most nostalgia bias for. Because wasn't this the first one you saw while it was airing?
Yes.
And this is the last one I would consider a childhood season for me. Because the thing is, I didn't really talk about this. I talked about, like, my first memory of Power Rangers is seeing an ad for Dino Thunder. And then I kind of watched Dino Thunder and SPD at the same time. While Dino Thunder was in reruns and SPD was airing. Then I dropped off during Mystic Force. Because as a kid, I literally saw ads for the show and went, Magic Power Rangers is a stupid idea. Very much just a little kid. I don't like that. That doesn't make sense with what I've seen of the show so far. I completely missed Operation Overdrive. But then for some reason, I just kind of caught the first few episodes of Jungle Fury. And I remember liking it as a kid, but not enough to keep watching. And then when I went back and watched it as an adult, I think for the circumstances this season was made under, because this is, if I remember correctly, this is the season that was made during the 2008 writer's strike, right?
Oh, yeah. And, so, like, yeah, Jungle Fury.
It's better than you would expect it to be given that circumstance, but it's still got its problems. Like, there's some awkward plot points. Casey has a good idea for Red Ranger, but he kind of stumbles in some areas. I don't really love Theo, but even though I can't remember her... Oh, Lily. I like Lily. I like... RJ. RJ is a great entertaining mentor character. Dom exists.
Even as someone who likes that show, like Dom is like, who's this guy?
Is it Fern who's the girl who doesn't ever become a ranger?
Yeah, Fern.
Yeah, Fern is a more interesting character than Dom. And the villains are... It's weird because I want to like them, but I also know they are very much just like a cheap copy of the Sentai counterparts. And it's like, I do really like the suits in this season. I like the Zords. I feel like there's some interesting monster concepts. And banger theme song. Absolutely love the Jungle Fury theme song.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't in good conscience place this much higher than B. I'm going to put this probably just below Zeo for me in the B ranking.
That's fair. Now, I have, like, kind of other issues with Jungle Fury that I want to get into. Well, first off, the scabbing kind of makes this season feel a bit icky in concept because people did scab to write this.
Yeah.
Also, for a martial arts season, why are 4 of the 5 Rangers white?
Yeah, that's weird, but it's not as weird as in Samurai.
Yeah, okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But, like, I still love a lot about this show. I think Casey's a great Red. Theo is one of my, kind of, like, it sparked my love for the Blue Ranger. RJ's a great mentor. Lily's pretty cool. Dom has a good introduction, and then just kind of doesn't really do much after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Jungle Fear is hard because objectively it's a B for me, but like if I move my like critical eyes, I think it's like A or S. So I'm like, You know what? I'm gonna put it in S. You know what? Screw it. It's childhood season. It gets that bias. Frick it. Like
Yeah.
it's probably the most flawed of my S tiers, but I love it a lot.
Fair enough. Isn't it your only S tier so far?
No, I have Ninja Storm in S.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We're gonna get another one in S tier very soon.
Oh yeah. But first, let's go to the chat. I got mad nostalgia bias for Overdrive since it was my first, and I haven't seen it in years. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Really liked the Mac as a robot stuff. Also, the suits are goated. It's fair to feel that way, Sticks. I completely disagree, but I'm far past the Megaforce sucks version of me that's going to belittle somebody for liking something I don't. I bet Spencer makes a heck of a sandwich, probably. I can understand why Overdrive is hate, but to me it's okay, I guess. Yeah, it's probably just... I don't know, I feel like maybe we just have a younger chat, and there's maybe like some more fondness for it than we have as people who were older when we got to see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You don't have to put your ages in the chat. It's just what my brain goes to when I hear stuff like this. Casey is insanely underrated as a Red Ranger. RJ is iconic. The Spirit Ranger suit slapped. Some great villains. Solid all around. Yeah, I forgot to mention the Spirit Rangers. It's a cool concept. I like some of them in their introductory episodes, but they kind of don't do enough with them to justify making Ranger suits later on, in my opinion.
And it's fun. The last time I think Plex designed original Ranger suits.
Yeah.
So like that kind of because they designed Titanium. Was there any other original Ranger suits?
I mean, there's some very recent ones, but we'll wait to talk about those when we get to it.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't Plex. That wasn't Plex. It was Hasbro.
Yeah. I think it's just those two times.
Yeah.
The White Ranger costume has one of the best helmets. The Morpher bit big though. Yeah, that's a really weird and awkward Morpher. The Morphers in general in Jungle Fury are kind of weird, but I don't hate them.
They only like the kids because I had the toys for a lot of these. They only fit kid hands.
Oh man.
The Rhino Morpher is so small in the actual toy. They only fit the kid hands.
Yeah, because this was right around the time it was like Mystic Force and Overdrive was when they started just completely abandoning using the Japanese molds, and it didn't go too well.
Yeah, a lot of cheap stuff. Especially when, like, it sucks because some of the only merch for my personal favorite season we're about to get into is very cheap stuff.
Geki Ranger Mentor was a furry. Yeah, I've seen that. Morphin Masters was disguised by Plex. Were designed by Plex. Yeah, okay, so we'll talk about those when we get to them. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about RPM, which I think is arguably the best season of the show. It is just such a unique and interesting concept. I love how much of like an abandonment of the Sentai concept it is. Even though the Sentai concept isn't inherently bad, it's just like, no, we're going to be doing this, and we are going to force this square peg through this round hole as hard as we possibly can, and you're going to enjoy it. And I do enjoy it. I really like a lot of the characters. I like the story. Most of the episodes are really good. Like, even And Action, I think, is a fun episode. And yeah, you can argue like some of the later story elements are definitely lifted for later seasons because they had to bring in a different writer. But I think it actually does those aspects a little bit better than the original shows that did them. And very fun, different villains. And arguably the best mentor in the franchise. Really, the only thing I don't like about this season is the theme song is a little too basic for my taste. And
you have like 4 other demos to like put on instead if you want to listen to an RPM theme song.
That's true. I've never been a fan of the Go-Onger suits. I know there's people who like them, but the thing is, the story in the show is so strong that I would still buy figures of these suits because I like these characters so much. And really the only episode I could like kind of call into question is Ranger Yellow, and that's just because it's a two-parter. It feels a bit padded out and awkward because all the other early character focus episodes were just one episode. I feel like if they trimmed that down to just be one episode, it would be just as good as the other ones. So I'm also going to put this in S tier. My heart doesn't want to put it over Dino Thunder, but it is still like arguably the best season of the show. It's the one everybody always goes to of like, this is ridiculously good for Power Rangers.
Okay, I love this show a lot, but the second half, like once frickin' what's his name, Gazillion left, they kind of flanderized some of the characters. Like I noticed this on my most recent watch, where it's like, also Dome Dolls is a horrible episode.
Really, you don't like Dumb Dolls?
I don't. I think it's terrible. I think it is painfully unfunny and weirdly out of place for this kind of show. Like it just like it like that. You know how you mentioned like lifting elements from other shows? That would have been fine if it, but just tonally for this show, what we've established so far, just like, huh? What's going on there? What's going on there? You know? It feels just so. It feels like we're watching a different show. I don't know. Also, just like a lot of the character dialogue got very flanderized.
Maybe it's just me, but I always thought it flowed together pretty well.
Yeah, I watched this show very recently for a review that I'm still pretty proud of, so watch that. Also just watch the show on YouTube. It's good. I love it a lot. It's even before I grew a critical brain, this was my favorite season of the show. I love Ziggy a lot. Ziggy's my favorite ranger.
Oh yeah, Ziggy's the man. I love Ziggy. I love Flynn. I love Scott. And Summer is a pretty solid ranger too. And then Gem and Gemma are just like such a fun alternate take on the Six Ranger trope.
Yeah,
great characters.
There's such a go on your counter, but still
you're roboting out a little bit.
Okay, Gem and Gemma, they're such a departure from their Go On Your counterparts, but they flow, they stand out on their own really well. Yeah.
It's kind of fun how the main team and Gem and Gemma are sort of an inversion of the Sentai character types, where the main Go-Ongers were silly and goofy, and then the wings were very serious, and they just flipped that for RPM, and it still works.
Yeah, especially because they filmed so much original footage.
Yeah.
Like, for this.
Alright, chat says they really should have gone with Demo 1. Definitely agree with that. Clowny Super Bowl, why don't you make vids with Geekvolution Captain Logan anymore? I kind of don't know what you mean by that, because I only ever really made one video with him, and it was just getting him to cameo in something I made. I haven't watched that channel in years, and I'm not super inclined to go back to it because of some stuff that I'm not privy to say publicly, but I'll just say, like, I'm not a huge fan of Captain Logan as a person these days, but I enjoyed watching the channel back in the day, and the content was decent back then, but this isn't about that, so we're going to go ahead and move on from that. Octuple Canvas, Go-Onger, silly and goofy, RPM, dark and serious. I kind of disagree with that, actually, because, like...
RPM has a lot of good jokes.
RPM has a very grounded story, but it has some very fun comedic dialogue.
Yeah. Some of it I don't think has aged the best, but most of it's pretty funny.
Yeah. The real only problem with the dialogue in RPM is just that, like, people gassed it up for so long that at this point, unless you're going in completely blind, it doesn't really hit as well.
Yeah. I feel like the funniest RPM joke in recent memory was when people put the Chainsaw Man opening over a monster attack from that because of the chainsaw theme.
I remember that edit. That was great.
Yeah, here's the thing. That single meme got me to, like, binge RPM in, like, one night.
Nice.
So that's how you got my video on it. So, boom.
Also, I do like I like the way the show ends overall. I feel like if that had been the last season of Power Rangers, it would have been a good note to leave things on.
Yeah.
and that's something we haven't talked about too much. Like, the endings, the like almost endings of Power Rangers so far. I don't love In Spaces. It's just kind of like, story's done, the bad guys are beaten, let's go. But then Wild Force, it would be nice if it didn't have like the random just, all right, give us your fucking jackets and morphers before we go. But this one is probably the best one so far of just like, yeah, nature, it's literally a nature is healing ending. And you gotta love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that fits with the old MMPR themes well. I think Wild Force still has the best final battle of any of the almost endings.
Oh, yeah.
Because, well, that's mainly taken from Gao Ranger. But, like, still, like, the visual of, like, all the orbs, even the ones you haven't used coming to help you out, that's still sick as hell, so...
Mm-hmm. Also just, like, very well shot and put together. That whole, like... destroyed cityscape with pouring rain. Not something you see super often in Power Rangers.
Or even, like, Sentai. I mean, Kamen Rider does do that, but, like, yeah.
Yeah. Alright. We've dilly-dallied enough. Let's do it. Let's do Samurai.
Oh, God.
Samurai's, like... The thing is, like, I really don't care for this season, but I have a weird soft spot for it, and I know other people younger than me have a soft spot for it, because this was a lot of people's introduction to Power Rangers. A lot of people got on with this season. And, like, I feel bad whenever I'm tamping over something I know is, like, a very treasured childhood thing for other people these days. But the fact of the matter is, Samurai is not good. Like, literally, there is one criticism you give of it that destroys the entire show, which is, it is just a crappy version of the Sentai. Like, every single plot element in the show is just, what if we did Shinkenger, but not as good? And also, we're going to cast a lot of not Japanese people in a show that's very heavily steeped in Japanese culture, and we're just going to act like this is a culture that runs in a lot of these people's families. And as such, it comes off as, like, really awkward and insensitive and counterintuitive to the core ideas of Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm. You said it better than I could, because I hate this.
Like, granted, I really like Shinkenger. I think that show has fantastic suits and Zords and weapons and monster design. It's not used to very good effect here. And it's kind of true across both seasons. Like, this is the first one where I don't have much different to say about the two different seasons. And honestly, okay, before we rank this, here's a challenge. Let's try and find something nice to say about this show.
Decker.
Yeah, Decker is actually a little bit better than Juza. He's not a ton better, but he's just a little bit improved over the Sentai counterpart.
But that still has its own real world problems later on.
Yeah. Oh Jesus! All those clips of Rick Medina going, "My sword Uramasa."
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna put it in E.
This goes at the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah.
I hate this show so much. I still need to make a video on it. My friend is still waiting for my rant about this show, and I'm like...
It's not as bad as Operation Overdrive, but man, it's down there for me.
It's my least favorite. Everything up here is like, even if it's bad, it's uphill from here.
Yeah. Okay. Never understood why Shayla took their jackets. Yeah, I don't think anyone understands. Samurai just isn't it for me, definitely. Damn, no MMPR reversion. It is literally just MMPR with shitty effects over it. There's nothing else to say. It's not even a real show.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Samurai, do you like plain white toast? Y'all love the characters from Samurai. I agree, but also, if you want to talk about plain white toast, just hang on another few seasons. But then we come to Megaforce. Do I even have to say it?
This is like low C for me, but that's because of Robo Knight.
This is yeah, Robo Knight's kind of fun, but other than that, this is absolute, like, maddeningly frustrating, bottom of the barrel, would not touch with a 10-foot pole. I actually kind of regret that I wasted so much of my life making videos about this show, and that it's what I'm known for now, because I despise this show so much, and I have nothing else to say. I said it all back then when I was a much younger, much angrier man. And if you want to go rewatch that fucking 4 hours of content, you are welcome to. I'm not going to rehash it here for you. Power Rangers Megaforce and Power Rangers Super Megaforce fucking suck.
Now for shows that don't suck.
Awesome. I have a lot of nostalgia for Samurai since it's how I found out about Sentai, but yeah, it was kind of disheartening to find out it's literally just 4-Kid Shinkenger. I wouldn't even call it 4-Kid Shinkenger, because at least 4Kids is kind of fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
It sucks. Yep. Did someone say Tommy Oliver cameo in Megaforce? I'm 30 years old and I like what I can remember. That's funny. At least we got an epic video essay put out of Megaforce. You're too kind, Clowny. You're too kind.
An epic video essay. Not any old video essay.
The epic 12-part saga.
Alright,
let's talk about Dino Charge.
Yeah.
Dino Charge is so interesting because it is the first season that came out where I remember being really involved with the fandom and really tapped into what everybody was saying about it on a week-to-week basis and being interesting and hyped up for each passing development. And I kind of have a different take on each season. So I'll just say Dino Charge, I think, is a really fun, really, really invigorating show that felt like such a breath of fresh air at the time. A lot of the characters are very fun and endearing and present interesting story opportunities. There's some standout episodes. I love the whole world they build with the Energems and the mythology around them and the whole, like, Kingdom of Xandar stuff like that. First original villain in the show in a long time, and it's a super entertaining and fun one. There's a lot to like about Dino Charge Season 1. I really like this show. Also, even though it does have Go-Go Power Rangers in there, I love the Dino Charge theme song. I feel like it's one of the best modern theme songs. I'm gonna put this at the top of my B tier. It's a really good one.
In between Zeo and Mystic Force. I like a lot about the show.
Yeah.
I'm just talking general because I'm not counting season 2s. I just in general. Mm-hmm. So that's probably why my ranking's a bit different than yours.
Yeah. Tyler is such a good Red Ranger, man. I love how
I disagree.
Really? Because I love how they took the concepts behind King and just kind of made them much more palatable. Where, yeah, he's a very upbeat, goofy kind of guy, but he's not obnoxious. And yes, he is the center of the story, but he doesn't actively push other characters to the side.
Yeah, I guess, I like Tyler. I just think he's, compared to everyone else, he's kind of, lower in the list. But, he's still a good character. That just speaks to the volumes of Dino Charge cast, I think.
Yeah. Now, the thing about
Supercharge?
Yeah, the thing about Dino Charge is, with me being so tapped into and having such a strong memory of it at the time, there's also the fact that a lot of the show kind of falls short in Supercharge. There's a lot of interesting ideas for Supercharge, but it doesn't quite execute them very well. Heckle is a really cool idea for a main villain of a season, but then they kind of squander it within 4 episodes, and then he's just kind of a weird tweener for the rest of the show. And the way Sledge comes back is fun. I like that he goes from kind of goofy minor threat that they're just having to fight off every episode to, oh, you didn't take me seriously? Well, I went and got a big world-ending threat. You gonna take me seriously now? But it leads to the Rangers having arguably a huge failure, and one of the weirdest endings in all of Power Rangers that caused this show to be put in its own pocket universe. And all the weird, like, hey, fans, we see you, we're going to reference Sentai things. We're going to say the word Sentai in Power Rangers as the name of a planet. I hate that. I hate that they never explain how Kendall, Keeper, and Koda met each other. They
did explain. Remember, there was a flashback in the first Supercharge episode.
There's a flashback to finding Koda, but they never They never explain how Keeper and Kendall became a team, or how they established the base, or any of that stuff. It's just there, and we're told to accept it with the idea that it will be explained later on, and then it never is. And then, of course, there's the big elephant in the room with this season of Tyler's dad, who is
that was terrible.
A huge mystery built up all throughout the first season, and then halfway through the second season you find him, and the explanation is he's just been living in the woods as an immortal Power Ranger all these years. He just thought because he became a Power Ranger he couldn't be with his family anymore, and he gave his son a complex because of that. And then as soon as they find him, he goes to leave to do... I can't even remember why the fuck he leaves. He's given like a mission by Keeper or something. Oh my god. Fucking hate the way that subplot turns out. It's so
worst rough. Part of Dino Charge.
I'm gonna put this one... I'm torn between putting Dino Supercharge in D or C. It's either a high D or a low C for me. I'm gonna go with D. I'm sorry, it's just, man, that season frustrates me. All right, Dino Charge is definitely the best of Neo Saban, but they definitely fumbled the bag towards the end. Yeah, that's pretty much what we said. It's Go-Go Power Rangers, but the lyrics in between help actually be different. Yeah, I love those lyrics.
Frustrating back half. I think the ending isn't. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we're roboting out on my end. It's fine. It's all fixed now.
Okay.
Like, the thing about Dino Charge's ending, it doesn't, like, frustrate me. It's just a bit, like, I don't mind a weird, freaking, bizarre-ass ending if you just, like, because, why not? It's just, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like they could have gone even crazier, and also I just hate Keeper.
Yeah. Well, I like Keeper in the early episodes where he's doing mentor stuff, but the fact that they don't ever really explain... like, where he comes from or what he is properly is really weird, too. I didn't even think about that.
I also just hate his suit. I don't like Keeper's suit.
Fair enough. I don't mind it. Also, I should say, like, a good thing about both these seasons, not just the theme song, but, like, Noam Kamal's background music. This is where it really peaks. Like, I like it better than most people, but this is where it gets really good. The Morphers in Dino Charge really show that anything can be a Morpher. Yeah, they're straight carryovers from the Sentai, but they're still really cool Morphers. The dad has to be young still because we can't let an adult be a Power Ranger unless he's a talking dog. That's true. And it's such a weird thing because, like, there's like, clearly... This show was also frustrating just because, like, it was the first time I was really plugged into behind-the-scenes information as it was coming out alongside the show. And, like, before the show was even filming, the casting sides leaked out. And I remember early on in the casting sides, do you know what they put in for the Cyan Ranger?
What?
It was originally supposed to be Riley's brother.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember the casting slides got leaked before the show even started filming.
Yeah, and everybody was like, whoa, and we didn't even know that was Riley's brother. It was just this cowboy-esque character is going to become the Cyan Ranger. And then when the first episode came out, we were like, oh, Riley's brother, they both live on a farm, and he's much more into it, and he's much more like a cowboy. This guy's going to become the Cyan Ranger. And then they don't do that, and even though, like, it's very obvious from the beginning that they can just do the thing in the Sentai and have Tyler's dad become the Silver Ranger, and it makes total sense. And then I guess to throw people because they caught on to that. I don't know if we ever got an explanation for why that was changed, or if it was deliberately put in the sides to throw people off. But the Silver Ranger sucks too. I hate Xenowing. I hate that the whole
he's
show
such
gets
a waste of-
sidetracked for such a lame plot that really only feels like it's there because they're going like, these suits exist, we have to use them for something.
Yeah.
I hate the Keeper
Yeah,
suit too. Wish they just used the Tauren suit. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, the Xenowing thing just feels like Kyoryuger exists. Let's adapt Kyoryuger and just not do it well.
Yeah, it's
Because
really
honestly, the show is
unfortunate.
best when it's doing its own thing, separate from Kyoryuger. And I like Kyoryuger, so that's saying stuff.
Yeah. All right. Ninja Steel.
Bad D.
This is the one show I have never finished. I got all the way up to the first Ninja Steel hiatus, and then I just never went back to it because the first couple episodes of Ninja Steel are really cool and interesting, and then it just becomes super generic Power Rangers, and everything I heard about it after that point just kind of confirmed that it stayed super generic modern Power Rangers. Oh, they're at a high school. They're teenagers. They want to do it. There's lessons about the environment. Also, they say the word ninja like a billion times, even though they're doing a lot of very un-ninja-like things. And
Also, the greatest ninja is white.
yeah, the greatest ninja is a white man who had two vaguely ethnic sons. And there's like a weird red herring with one of the sons where they have a completely different actor who's way whiter than the kid who played the child version. It's such an awkward show. The nicest thing I can say about it is I think the original concept for the villains is kind of a fun idea.
But they don't use it, so who the hell cares?
Yeah, and it's nice that Kelson Henderson got another big role in Power Rangers that carried throughout the rest of the franchise after this for some reason. But this ain't it, fam. This is like up there with the worst seasons, not because it's bad or frustrating, just because it's boring. There's not a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like there's a big controversy at the time of the show airing of there was supposed to be a whole subplot about the Yellow and White Ranger, whose names I can't remember. All I can ever remember about them is that they were a couple, and there was plans for them to break up in the middle of the show, and then one of them get with another Ranger, and that lead to some inter-team drama. But the actors complained about it and said it wouldn't send a good message to kids, so instead they just did nothing with those characters for the whole fucking show.
I mean, I hate that original idea too, but just do things. Just do something, anything. Be interesting.
It's the highest F for me because it's not like offensively bad. It's just boring, but it's still an F for me. And maybe part of that is because I also really don't like Ninja. Ninja is one of the worst Sentais I've seen, in my opinion. But the show still could have fixed it. I'm also like in the minority that I don't like Kyoryuger, but I really like the first season of Dino Charge, so it proves that you can turn shows I don't like into shows I do like, and they just didn't do that.
I actually think this is worse than Ninja, because at least Ninja has like stuff happening. It may not be the best stuff, but it's stuff. Ninja Steel's just
yeah. Also, it's really telling that there's not a lot to say about this show besides how frustratingly boring it is. In the fact that like nobody has said anything about it in the chat. We got 2 more chats about Dino Charge. Yeah, I hate the Keeper suit too. Wish they just used the Tauren suit. Oh, I think we read that one already. Dino Supercharge just suck in the end. Yeah, we definitely agree with that.
Alright, time for a change of heart of a season.
Hyperforce.
Not Hyperforce? We're doing Hyperforce? I thought
Yeah,
we weren't.
Hyperforce is in this tier list for some reason. Even though it's not an actual season of the show, it's a weird Twitch streaming series they did that is essentially just a D&D show, but with actors from Power Rangers playing new characters or returning as their characters thanks to a time travel mechanic. It's on the tier list template, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. I never really cared for this.
I've
Sorry?
seen more of it than you, so
Yeah.
I can like.
I
describe
watched
things.
I watched the first episode, the Shattered Grid episodes, and the last episode, mainly because I'm sorry, I just don't find tabletop gaming to make for entertaining content. I think it's probably fun to play D&D and those sorts of games, but I've never done it, and watching other people do it doesn't look fun to me. It's just kind of like that thing where you go like, this conversation would be interesting if I could be a part of it, but it's not, because I'm not. I'm just watching other people have fun, and I'd rather be having fun myself. The most enjoyable it really got for me, and really that's just it got tolerable, is when I tuned in for the Shattered Grid episodes, because I was really into that comic event. I really like Jason David Frank playing Lord Draken. He's really good at playing like a creepy villain. And Kyle Higgins playing a surprise pumpkin rapper is probably the best thing that's ever been done with that extremely overrated monster. I love that he like clearly had all these pre-written raps, and then Black Nerd started freestyling at him, and he had to very quickly start figuring out freestyles in response. That was hilarious. But
Yeah.
that's the most entertaining thing about the whole show for me.
Here's how I judge Hyperforce. I judge it because it's like tabletop. I judge it based on the concepts presented and like the recaps. So like the actual game is like, okay, you're just playing a game. Okay, so I judge the story. I like the characters more than the plot. I think there's some really good character concepts and arcs here. And the comic, the comic they did was pretty cool as a little continuation, and I just like it. Just I put it in B. I put it in like B because I like the characters a lot, especially the actors. But the overall plot just feels fanficky and like not the best way.
That's probably fair. I guess you can also say like, hey, this is a way better performance from Peter Sudarso than in Ninja Steel.
I thought he was one of the better actors in Ninja Steel.
That's
honestly.
true.
But like, yeah, he was really good as the Red Ranger here.
That being
also,
said,
it's really
I'm
cool that
putting it at
Pink
the
got-
top of my D tier.
I also like that Pink got a battleizer because they're just like, hey, we have original suits. Frickin'
Sky's the limit.
Pink the battle. Yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And also the RPM session was real fun. I really like RPM session.
Yeah. Gotta love how Hyperforce is in there, but not the anniversary episode. Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing about this tier list, but also the MMPR anniversary episode is kind of a special. It's not like a show with multiple episodes, and I think this is supposed to be like all the shows. But I guess if I were to rank Once and Always, I'd probably put it in A tier. I don't know where, but I put it in A tier because Once and Always is a really good special.
Yeah, I just like Once and Always boosted up MMPR on my ranking, so it like yeah. Like MMPR would normally be C, but Once and Always made it B.
Yeah. I only watched the first few episodes and fell off because there was no way I was gonna catch up with episodes that long. Yeah, that's the other thing about this.
These episodes go long.
Yeah, I just like I have a hard time watching edited down tabletop content. So watching like a full multi-hour stream, even if I'm going to put it on in the background and do other things, it's just not that interesting to me. As someone who is a casual PR fan, should I bother watching Hyperforce? That's an interesting question. I really don't know.
If you like D&D, then maybe.
Yeah, if you like D&D, if you've always wanted to see Bulk's actor get to be a Power Ranger, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, I'd suggest read up some recaps and decide for yourself.
Mm-hmm. All right, now we get to Beast Morphers, the first of the Hasbro seasons.
The Hasbro trilogy, dare we say.
Yeah. Beast Morphers is a weird show because I really like the first season. I feel like the first season is really strong. A lot of great character concepts, a lot of fresh and invigorating stuff for the franchise. Really cool suits and Zords, really good music, and fun, entertaining villains. Villains with a lot of pathos for the main heroes too, which is something we hadn't had in a while at that point. But it just fumbles it so hard in that second season.
Yeah.
It's another
like,
kind of Dino Charge situation for me, where it's like, I like all the concepts you present here, and as its own show, Beast Morphers Season 1 is really good. You could almost just watch that and then not watch the second season, because then the second season, like, almost feels like they didn't want to do another season, and then they realized they had to, and they were like, shit, get all these pieces back in place, but also we're going to leave this over here so we can maybe do something with it, but then we're never going to do anything with it, and we're gonna do all this anniversary, like, legacy content episodes that are really awkward and bad, and look, here, we got the Dr. K actor back, aren't you excited?
There's only one scene. It's a good scene.
There's
but it's
two
one
scenes.
Scene.
There's two scenes. There's one in the first episode, and there's one in like the third to last episode.
Second to last episode. And also, it was the 9th episode she appeared as like a monitor thing.
Oh yeah, so she's got 3 appearances, and I'll admit, getting her back at all was really surprising, because after Clash of the Red Rangers and In the Driver's Seat, I think is the Super Mega Force episode, I was convinced they were never going to properly bring back RPM. So seeing her so consistent with her RPM characterization, and actually feeling like she had been through some stuff and grown as a person a little bit since then, was really cool. I do like that one scene in the penultimate episode, and I like the reveal that Evox is Vengex. I felt like that was a really cool moment, and it led to a pretty solid finale. Like, Beast Morphers kind of sticks the landing, but there's so much awkward, not ain't it chief stuff in the second season that it's hard for me to give the second season a high ranking. I would put the first season in B, just below Dino Charge's first season, but the second season, I'm going to put it... It's either at the top or the penultimate of C for me. Shit.
I put the overall season in B above MMPR. I think the aesthetics and like characters carry it, especially Steel. Steel's one of the best Rangers
That's fair.
ever.
We didn't even talk about Nate and Steel. They're great additional Rangers. I really do like them and their whole arc. I'm one of the only people in the whole world who doesn't like the big musical number with Steel, but that's just because it was a little too out of nowhere for me. But other than that, I like his character arc. I just wish the ending of it was different. Like, here's the thing. It's a really good character arc. The ending's not terrible, but it really should have had the human actor be Steel's voice actor. You shouldn't have gotten a different face actor to make bringing him back ever super complicated.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think it kind of would have been a better and much more modern message to have it end in him accepting who he is as a robot. Like, subvert... That's one of the few times where I was actually, like, kind of annoyed they didn't subvert the trope of, like... Yeah, a robot wanting to become human is a classic character archetype, and you want to play into that, and you want to have a satisfying ending to that. But a satisfying ending to that, especially in modern times where we have such a body positivity culture, could be Steel learning to accept, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with being a robot.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's that's really my big issue of Steel, just his ending.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm eating pizza right now.
What kind?
Not really pizza, just from like Little Caesars, like cheese bread.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but no, I like the rest of the Ranger cast. I really wish if they were going to have them be clones in the second season, I wish they had done more with the Human Blaze and Roxy. Is one of the biggest drawbacks this season, because like Human Roxy gets a focus episode, but it's just kind of a generic Power Rangers environmental message episode. I wanted to see something of like Blaze having to deal with like, oh, I was evil for a long time after I thought I was going to be the Red Ranger and I had no control over my own body. And even before then, I was kind of a dickhead. I need to go on a huge apology tour. I really wanted that with Blaze, and they never did that.
Blaze is one of the most underused characters in Power Rangers, in my opinion. He is one of the biggest waste potential, but I still like him a lot because...
Also, who the fuck names their kid Blaze?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just felt frisky. Maybe it was a bet. Maybe it was a bet. That's my headcanon. It's a bet.
All right. That crossover episode of Beast Morphers with all the Dino Rangers really feels like whiplash when the Rangers were supposed to love this series are just sort of put aside for other teams. Yeah, it's such an awkward, like, done better in the Sentai kind of thing, because it's the same kind of thing in the Sentai, but even the Sentai has the added benefit of the Dino Rangers was what they were doing that season. Like, the Go Busters still get moments in that movie, and the fact that they're not the current team kind of makes it okay that they go, like, dinosaurs are really big right now, we're just going to have a huge dinosaur crossover. Whereas in this season, it's, oh, we suddenly have access to Austin St. John, let's do a big dinosaur crossover, because also some of the Beast Morphers actors wanted to come back too. Or not Beast Morphers, Dino Charge actors wanted to come back.
They're so underutilized. It doesn't even feel like they're characters. It just feels like they're just props.
Yeah. I have never seen Power Rangers Hyperforce. You're not missing much, Octuple Canvas. They also shouldn't have given Dr. K that haircut again. Yeah, it helps identify her as her character, but it really doesn't suit her face anymore, if that makes sense. I can see that. It didn't bother me a whole lot. But yeah, it was... Man, Olivia Tennant grew so much in the intermittent time between RPM and Beast Morphers. It was so crazy seeing her back.
Yeah. Do you want to do the second to last show?
Yeah, let's talk about Dino Fury. Because Dino Fury is one of the few 2-season shows where I would say I kind of have the same opinion of both seasons, and it's a positive one.
Yeah, we love this show. We covered it on Twitter. We loved it.
Yeah, we actually covered it episode by episode, except for the last batch of season 2, because that most of this show was aired week to week on Nickelodeon, except for like the last, I want to say, 10 episodes were dropped on Netflix. And it was a really fun ride throughout the whole thing. It had a very interesting plot and mythos to it that unfolded logically throughout. It had some pretty charming Ranger characters, really fun villains with an interesting mystery box. It's one of the few shows I've ever seen that does the mystery box storyline and actually has a fully satisfying ending. When you find out what you find out about Void Knight and Area 62 and Amelia, it all clicks together and makes perfect sense and is really satisfying. Yeah. Zato is a great Red Ranger, because
love the best.
He takes the Red Ranger, it's a merging of the Red Ranger and the Mentor trope, and that was a brand new thing for Power Rangers at the time, and it felt so logical and interesting. And at the same time, you have Soul on there kind of doing some mentor stuff, but also being more of a tech support character and still being very charismatic and fun in her own right. And Javi and Izzy are such great characters. Really love the whole Garcia family and how they evolve over the course of the 3 seasons, counting Cosmic Fury. Ollie is definitely the weakest link, I would say. I like him a lot. Disagree.
I think Amelia is. The weakest link.
Really?
Personality-wise. Story-wise, she serves her purpose, but personality-wise, not the biggest Amelia guy.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just
Ollie I really love.
Maybe it's just I don't like how much of a dick Ollie can be sometimes. But like I like how his character does have a clear arc to it, where he is very much a dick at the outset, and like he kind of stays that way for a little bit, and then there's like a very clear moment of like, dude, you need to turn it down, and you need to realize you're hurting people's feelings and be a better person. And he starts changing from that point on to the point where when he actually realizes he has feelings for Amelia, it's pretty believable. It's a little sudden, but it's believable enough that I like it. And speaking of characters having feelings for each other, elephant in the room, this is the first show to have an LGBTQ plus couple in Power Rangers, and it's really cute. I love,
and they improve it even more.
Yeah,
like, it's already good here, but they improve it even more next season. Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna put top of 8 here. I really love Dino Fury.
Yeah.
Like, both the original footage and stock footage from Ryu Soldier works well. The final battle is insane, both the stock footage and the original footage they did.
Yeah. I'm going to put it between Lost Galaxy and SPD, but it's very high on A tier for me. Absolutely loved this show. And again, villains are super fun.
Yeah,
I think the one thing I could say I don't really like, Jane and Jayborg, kind of a weak comedic duo, but not the worst we've ever had.
They're fine. I think the best thing, like, they're forgettable, but they're still, like, pleasant to show up, you know?
Yeah, better forgettable than grating like Victor and Monty. And
yeah.
Also, we didn't say anything about Ion. He is a fine Six Ranger, but he gets a little too goofy at times.
I think I like him more, especially with the context of Cosmic Fury.
Yeah. Alright. A Lord Zed cameo in Dino Fury. I'm 30 and I like what I can remember. I actually, we've talked about this. We talked about it at the time. I really like how they brought Lord Zed back in that show.
I was really worried, but they did it really well. It
was a little contrived, but it made sense, and it led to some pretty good character work.
And also the episodes he appears in are just super fun.
Yeah, and the world building in this season is in this show is so on point too. I love all the like little callbacks to previous seasons, even more so than how they did it in Beast Morphers. Of course, the whole like Morphin Masters being an explanation for so many plot holes is a little bit a wizard did it. But it's still fun, and it's really nice that they finally put in all those explanations years later for things that really aggravated some people, myself included in some cases.
I'd say it's rather don't do it, but you know, for what it is, it's fine. It's fine. You know?
I do love the theme tune for this series. It's damn catchy and not just Go-Go Power Rangers again. Yeah, that's the other thing about this season. It's completely different music than we had been getting up to that point, and it's really, really good music. Love
very techno.
Love the Fury season's scores and theme songs. But yeah,
I'd say Cosmic Fury completes the theme song, because it feels like the first theme song's a bit incomplete, but Cosmic Fury completes it, you know?
Yeah, and speaking of Cosmic Fury, it's time for the first time either of us have spoken about this show publicly, because I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the stream, but it's not been the best year to be a Power Rangers fan, in my opinion, and that's just because with the whole elephant in the room of the show is pretty much over now. There's no hint of another season coming. Hasn't been for a long time. Hasbro has a reboot project in the works. The show is pretty much done at this point, and that led to a lot of hyperbolic and contentious and annoying conversations constantly breaking out in the online fandom, and it got so stressful and annoying and aggravating for me that at one point a few months ago, just before Cosmic Fury came out, we both talked about it and we said we weren't going to cover Cosmic Fury on This Week in Toku, even though we had covered Once and Always and all of Dino Fury up to that point. And still, we stuck to our guns. We never talked about it when it dropped, and this isn't technically an episode of Twit. But we did talk about it a little bit privately when it came out, and I think it's now time to kind of air out our feelings on it publicly, which is, it's pretty good!
Yeah, it's pretty good. It has some clear drawbacks. 10 episodes didn't really work for me. They did the best with what they could. Also, I really don't like the way Zato was handled in this season. The end of Zato was good, but like the 8 episodes where he's just being float around, not great. Everything else is good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, actually, another critique. Amelia, her transition to leader is a bit weird, but she's fine as a leader, so...
See, I kind of think it being weird was intentional. There's a whole couple of scenes where they're like, is this weird? This feels like maybe we shouldn't do this. We don't want to step on Zato's toes. And everybody goes out of their way to go like, no, the grid is offering you this role and you've earned it after all the stuff you've been through the last 2 seasons. And it's it's kind of weird that the fandom didn't even really agree with that, because that was one of the things that I constantly saw people talking about is like, hey, it's nice that we finally have a female Red Ranger for the whole show, but it's weird that we're demoting a black guy from the Red Ranger role in order to do that. Even though you could argue it's not a demotion because it's giving him a more overt mentor Ranger suit.
Feels like a demotion because of how the way he's treated, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's how it feels.
And that's the thing is like aesthetically, I don't think it's a demotion, but story wise, it definitely is. Especially because there's a good couple episodes where he's almost out and out a damsel in distress. And that's really weird. I do like that it leads to Russell Curry getting to play Zordon. That scene is so cool. But
I know it's like officially confirmed to be Zordon, but I like to think it's like, for me, the entire grid. That's how I like to view it. But like, I know it's confirmed to be Zordon, so it just feels like cooler if it's like this is everything Power Rangers in this one person, you know?
Yeah. I like that they brought I like that they brought Billy back essentially just to put him back in his role from Zeo, but also he has the Mighty Morphin powers that he whips out occasionally.
Yeah.
Fern becoming a Ranger was such a great little arc, probably the best take I have ever seen on the trope of a superhero being overly concerned about their spouse getting hurt because they are a hero, and then the spouse having to go, no, fuck you, I'm capable too.
This show really like made Fern one of my favorites.
Also,
it's great too.
The whole subplot of Javi losing his arm and having to adjust to that was surprisingly well handled and good representation for amputees out there.
Yeah, they do kind of drop that subplot, but they close it off well, like where it's like he can still like rock out, and I love the rock out episode. That's one of my favorite episodes of the show.
That one's really fun. I like that the ending, that the final solution to beating a bad guy in this show isn't just blow them up, defeat them. It's a workaround. It's a way of showing like there are other ways to deal with your problems than violence, which is one of the things the franchise is routinely critiqued for. You know, there's that meme that used to go around all the time. Power Rangers teaching kids violence is the only solution since 1993. Well, here they subvert that trope.
And they use like elements from the last show to like prove that, and I think that's really well done. Also, like the way they beat Zed kind of reminds me of JoJo Part 5, where it's like Golden Experience Requiem, where he's just in a time loop.
And it's also just fun for me because it harkens back to my preferred version of Zed. Everybody likes to remember Zed as the big, badass, evil conqueror who came in and dethroned Rita. But I kind of like him as goofy sitcom dad, not gonna lie.
Also, the new voice actor is amazing. Fred Tatasciore, he's already one of my favorite voice actors, and like getting him as Zed, he does a phenomenal job.
It's a shame the circumstances he came in under, because the actor from Dino Fury essentially got bullied off the show by fans. But it is a really good performance, and I think both performances are good, even though this one is definitively better. Neither of them top Robert Axelrod, but that's like an impossible task. You gotta do your own thing, and I feel like both these voice actors did a good job of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So,
and like, hey, the Dino Fury, it was Vengix's voice, so I have a little bias of that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put Cosmic Fury actually above Dino Fury. It's not.
I disagree.
Really?
Like mainly just because of the Zato stuff. Like, and it's also just much shorter. And also
it's weird
the fights are
like,
good, but the suits are a bit mixed.
Yeah, we completely forgot to talk about the suits. Actually, you know what? We got so hyped talking about good stuff. We do need to talk about drawbacks. The suits aren't great. I don't think they're as bad as everybody says they are, but they're not great. And it's a weird flip, because I don't like Ion in Dino Fury, but I do like Zato in that show. And in this show, I like what they do with Ion, but I don't like what they do with Zato. And I don't love the Ryu Soldier suits. I feel like they're kind of just a bland rehash of Kyoryuger, but they are better than the Cosmic. Yeah, I'm gonna have to lower it. I'm gonna put it beneath Dino Fury. It's still a really fun show. It's a pretty good ending for the franchise as a whole. Even though the franchise will go on, the show is just done now. The show as we know it anyway.
I do like the name Zenith Ranger, though. Like,
yeah.
Also, the Evil Ollie stuff.
Oh my god, we completely forgot to talk about Evil Ollie. Kai Moya fucking owned that role so well. Like, he's good as regular Ollie, but he's great as evil, hypnotized, brainwashed Ollie. I have been saying it since the show came out. Marvel needs to give that guy a villain role in their next movie.
Oh yeah, he would be pretty good as an MCU villain, honestly. But like, Evil Ollie also just helps out as a really cool suit. I hate that there's no action figures of the show out right now because I love an Evil Ollie figure.
I'd love an Evil Ollie, and I'd love a Final Form Zed figure. That is a really good suit.
I love how they didn't just be like, all right, it's the Q Ranger final boss. No, they went their own epic way, and it's so good.
Yeah. Also, some of the most clever and fun suit usage in this show.
It's literally just the show's ending. Use everything. Yeah,
like, even though I have gone to bat for Bunglei as one of the best villains in all of Sentai, and they kind of Flanderize him here, I love the way they Flanderize him. He's so hilarious in the one episode he is in the show. Alright, that's our rankings. Buster, do you want to save your ranking and send it to me so I can pull it up on the stream real quick just to let people actually get a visual representation? And I'll catch up on the chat real quick. Cosmic Fury is fine. There's a lot of shoving MMPR stuff down your throat with Billy being back and the idea of Zordon being out there somewhere, but everything else seems fine. I guess I can agree with that as somebody who, because Boulder Man is actually a personal friend of mine. He's the guy I always refer to as my MMPR casual friend.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I can see how he feels that way, having not had the context of watching Dino Fury as it came out. Dude literally became a god. How is that a demotion? It's complicated. I don't want to have the conversation here, especially because we don't have a African American present. Also, they have a lot of all the other Rangers have been captured, but never show us. You have some suits laying around. You for sure have the MMPR suits. Show us other teams trying to help with her. I can agree with that. That might have been nice to get at least like some just coverage shots of Rangers fighting foot soldiers in 1 or 2 episodes. Kind of like the In Space finale where just randomly here's a few shots of Blue Centurion and Phantom Ranger. Honestly, I don't really like this over-focus on the Red Ranger from either show or the fandom where it takes away from the other Rangers. Yeah, I've never been a fan of like making the Red Ranger the out-and-out main character, but I feel like Dino Fury, and to a lesser extent Cosmic Fury, does a good job of spreading the focus around while still making the Red Ranger the main character. The fact that Ollie didn't smile in the intro until he rejoined the team is such a good touch. The intro,
I didn't even notice that.
I never noticed that either. That's great. The intro changing with the show was really pleasant to see every episode. Yeah, that's something I always mark out for when a show goes, here, we're gonna change this little thing every episode. Like, that's one of the things I do really like about Dino Charge's second season, is how every couple episodes they change that opening narration that Saban mandated they have at the time. Alright, I'm going to change my window capture to Discord real quick.
My tier list.
Alright. Yeah, so that's Buster's ranking. You've all been seeing mine for a good little while here. I think it's interesting how, like, generally we seem to agree on things, but we do have a few clear points of divergence. Like, we lined up a lot more than I thought we would, and even our disagreements weren't as hard of disagreements as I was expecting.
There's my ranking. RPM's the number 1, Samurai's below, everything else is like all over.
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of like you're the way you freaking did the like Overdrive critique kind of like got me down on it.
Yeah.
Also, like, I'm feeling very tired, man. Mm-hmm. I just woke up. I probably have to go now.
Well, hey, I'm glad you were able to just get up and be on the stream at all. I was really worried for a little bit there. But this has been a good time. I'm glad we did this. And if you folks have enjoyed listening to this, definitely go check out Buster's content on their channel. They do really good, snappy, short video reviews of tokusatsu and anime and video games. I, of course, have my content that's coming out every Saturday, at least for the foreseeable future. Next week, we're going to be covering the rest of the Transformers Legacy Armada figures. Definitely check out our weekly Tokusatsu podcast over on Modular Media. This Week in Toku /Twit comes out every Tuesday morning. We cover all the latest news and new releases from Ultraman, Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, and any independent projects that might also be happening to pop off while the week is going on. But that's going to do it for this one, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I hope you have a happy and spooky Halloween. And we will see you around.